Gil, I heard you, so I think your sound is working.
Thanks, Catherine.
So Francesca, as we're approaching a quorum, please let me know when we get there.
Anderson checking in.
Hello, Anderson. I hear you and see you.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I think we're waiting to establish a quorum here. So we'll get started as soon as that happens. Okay, so I'm just going to check in and ask if we have a quorum.
Sure, we do have a quorum now.
Okay, excellent. Well, then we can go ahead and get started. So it's 9:01 and good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this May 13 Board of Directors meeting to order. So let's go through our interpretation services at the beginning here. Ruth?
Yes. This is an announcement to on-site participants. If you are joining us today in the Sande boardroom and need interpretation into Spanish, please check out a receiver from the receptionist on the 7th floor. Simply hold the earpiece to your ear and the interpreter will come on automatically. Buenos días. Si se ha unido a la reunión de hoy en la sala de juntas de Sande y necesita interpretación al español, por favor diríjase a la recepción del piso 7 y solicite un receptor. Simplemente sostenga el auricular junto a su oído y la interpretación comenzará automáticamente. The following instructions are for people joining the meeting remotely. I will repeat the announcement in English. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular o tableta, presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. Gracias. To use the Zoom interpreting feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located. Click on the interpretation icon, which is the world icon, and select English as your language. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone or tablet, please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. So let's now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so now a couple things. So you're probably noticing we're all on Zoom today. We did, after talking about this extensively at our last meeting, we did have less than a third of the board members RSVPing to come in person, and we've had a number of COVID outbreaks, so we moved it to be all virtual. So that's the first announcement. I'm happy to see all of you here on the screen. The next thing is that May 19th is Sandag's Bike to Work Day. We are excited about this. There are over 3,500 people who are signed up to bike on that day. And that's a record. We have a record of more than 100 pit stops that are planned across the region. There's various swag that's given out at those, and enthusiasm and support for biking, lots of different things happening. I'll be at one in Encinitas, and I encourage you to participate in at a pit stop that's near you, and spread the word. So post it on social media and that kind of thing. So it's a good opportunity to try out biking if you haven't biked to work and you would like to try it. I'm also excited to announce that Sandag has more awards that are coming in. So we have the California Transportation Foundation, which awarded the Midcoast Trolley Project the Project of the Year Award, which is very exciting. Other awards by the foundation were given to Sandag and Caltrans District 11, and that we received the Enrico Fermi Diverging Diamond Interchange, the SR-78 Rehab Project, the I-805 Sweetwater River Bridge, and the San Diego section of the American Planning Association just awarded Sandag's 2021 regional plan the 2022 Comprehensive Plan Large Jurisdiction Excellence Award. Another award was the 2022 Environmental Planning Excellence Award, given to the Accelerate to Zero Emissions Planning effort. So congratulations to everyone who made these awards happen for us at Sandag. We know there were lots and lots of staff working for many years, and then of course also applying for the awards. And we thank those organizations that have given us the awards. And then lastly, the Sandag Board of Directors workshop, which is basically a modification of the quote retreat, but it's a workshop, is going to be held Thursday, May 26th. So that's just a little less than 2 weeks. And we've shortened it to just one day, and it is going to be at an exciting new location, which is the Menge International Museum in Balboa Park. So we're excited to have a productive day of facilitated discussions, and it's just one day. And I really hope the board prioritizes participating in this workshop. And it will be in person, and the link to RSVP will be emailed out to the board today. So with that, let's jump into non-agenda public comments. So public comments can happen in person at the Sandag offices or virtually. So just wanted to make sure everyone knew they had the opportunity to participate multiple ways. So Francesca, do we have any public comments?
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes.
Thank you, Chair. We do have one in-person public comment and a few virtual. Catherine Rhodes will be up first with her in-person comments, and then we'll be going to Brandon Leesmeyer virtually. So Catherine, we'll go ahead and start your presentation.
Lovely, thank you. January 12th, 2021, the FAA issued a memo on passenger facility charge update for eligibility of on-airport rail access project. It states, this policy amends FAA policy to make rail lines that do not exclusively serve an airport PFC eligible. The PFC order currently states that airport ground access projects must be for the exclusive use of airport patrons and employees. A portion of rail access project may be eligible even if the rail project in its entirety serves more than exclusive airport traffic. FAA supports the use of PFC funds to encourage the development of intermodal connections on airport property between aeronautical and other transportation modes. 3 preferred methodologies for calculating the portions of project eligible for PFC funding include 2, calculating the cost to build a hypothetical standalone people mover system connecting the airport's terminals to a regional transit system. Policy, an eligible airport ground access project is one meeting the following conditions. 2, the access road or facility must be located on airport or within a right-of-way acquired by the public agency. This new flexible 2021 FAA passenger facility charge policy change was secretly sabotaged and opposed by the Airport Authority in 2016. Their opposition letter states, we are submitting comments regarding the opposition to proposed changes to Federal Aviation Administration policy that would allow the use of passenger facility charges to fund airport rail access projects located on airport property that do not exclusively serve an airport. Opening up eligibility for projects such as rail access may potentially bring pressure to participate in funding a project that's not a high priority at STIA. It also states political influence. There's no mechanism for airports to resist local political pressure to use PFC to fund rail projects in close proximity to airports. Airports could be pressured to use PFC revenue to build projects that have little or no value to airports. Airports could be subject to local influence by elected official and regional leaders. For example, a transfer of adjacent property interest in the airport through a right-of-way could increase the apparent PFC eligibility for the on-airport portion of a rail system. As a result, airports would have to hope the FAA rejects PFC applications to which the airport was opposed. The people mover method could create unwarranted and astronomical cost eligibility.
Thank you. And our next public speaker will be a virtual public speaker with the phone number ending in 435. You're self-muted at the moment and you can begin when you're ready. After that person, we'll be going to the person with the phone number ending in 899.
Good morning. This is Robin Joy Maxson, Chair of the Ramona Community Planning Group and a member of the County Social Services Advisory Board. I'm speaking today as the mother of a 15-year-old. Regarding the Youth Opportunity Passport Program, my unincorporated community of Ramona has a large population of geographically isolated youth 18 and under. This program is a wonderful opportunity to introduce transportation options to these youth via alternative transportation instead of single vehicle travel. Based on the 2020 U.S. Census, many youth living in families in Ramona have no transportation at all in our town, and many have not acquired driver's licenses nor vehicles in order to become a driving member of the public. We have an opportunity to introduce a new generation to another form of travel. Unfortunately, when planning bus travel from Ramona to almost anywhere in the county, the average one-way trip is 2.5 to over 3 hours just one way. And there are only a few buses that come to our community for any passenger to ride, regardless of age. I understand that ridership is low in public transportation across the county. In Ramona, it is low and virtually absent as we do not have the buses available to create reasonable, realistic, and viable routes for our youth. In effect, our youth are left out and unable to receive the benefits of this regional program. Our region is considering spending somewhere in the neighborhood of billions of dollars to move visitors from the airport to nearby San Diego destinations. Meanwhile, we are ignoring existing and precious cargo of our rural youth. In execution of any transportation plan, we must not continue to plan to fail the next generation. My personal motto is, remember, a childhood is a limited opportunity, use it well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be the person with the phone number ending in 899, who will be followed by Alex Wong.
Hi, Mary D. here, calling to express my grave dissatisfaction and concern with your continued efforts to reimagine San Diego and pivot from what was promised to us as taxpayers. We voted for not one, but two ballot measures, giving you our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to stewardfully manage in order to build the infrastructure you promised us. These include a laundry list of projects that you now want to set aside in order to pivot to a brand new vision. We're a private business. To do that to customers, it would constitute fraud. And yet somehow you feel that it is okay to pull a Lucy in the football move on taxpayers who entrusted their dollars and their faith to you to provide what you promised you said you would. I am asking for a mindful pause by Sande to recommit to do what was presented to us at the ballot box. To do otherwise is disingenuous at best and malfeasance at worst. Restore integrity to Sande, pivot back to what we voted on. Here's a much needed reality check and a wake-up call. You're going to find yourselves hard-pressed to get even one single new tax passed, let alone three, especially in light of rapidly increasing inflation, as well as projected interest rate increases. I also want to caution you that you're openly publicizing your reliance on this purported private citizens initiative seems very questionable, particularly in light of the history and case precedent of the City of San Diego's Proposition B, which was found to be faulty and eventually overturned. Regarding the possibility of more toll roads, given the 1.8 million in lost revenue on your current one, you can't even manage that. Don't come to us with your handout for more. Please ground your future plans in reality accordingly and honor the commitments you made. The public trust you eroded in pivoting on the regional plan is quite likely to come back and bite you when you attempt to actually fund these future plans. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Alex Wong. Alex, you can go ahead.
Yes, so I'm Alex Wong, and I believe that while the Youth Opportunity Pass is well-intentioned, I don't know if it serves the best purpose and if it's the most efficient use of Sandbag's capital and MTS's capital and operating budgets. Because what good is a free train or a bus if it's so infrequent that it's hard to get places on time? Time is money. And if you can't get to places on time, for example, work and appointments, then even if you're a youth and even if it's free, well, you really don't have a choice but to buy a car. And here's the kicker. Countless studies show that a minute spent waiting for a train can feel up to twice as long as a minute spent riding on board the train, meaning that frequency is in some respects even more important than speed. Unfortunately, Sandag wants universal free transit by 2031 before your pledge to increase all trolley frequencies to 7.5 minutes, which would be by 2035. With a super tight transit budget, I believe Sandag can really only do one or the other. And since it can only do one or the other, I believe it must choose frequency before free transit. I never expect MTS operations or Sandag to be profitable. It will always need some sort of taxpayer subsidies, and that's fine. But please spend those tax dollars on actually improving service rather than making transit free and keeping service infrequent. The problem isn't transit is too expensive. Even at current fares, to quote Circulate San Diego's executive directors, Colin Parent, to paraphrase him, transit is already much cheaper than owning and operating a car. The problem is that transit is infrequent and slow and often can't get you to places on time. Thank you very much, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, and Chair. That concludes the public commenters.
Okay, thank you to the public comment today. We will be taking the non-agenda member comment at the end of the meeting. So next we have our CEO report. We'll hand it over to Hassan.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members. Good to see you virtually. Just a few items to update you on. Earlier this week, Colleen and I had the pleasure of attending the inauguration of the Tijuana International Airport, a new passenger processing facility at CBX. We heard the great compliments from our partners in Mexico, from the governor of Baja California on the partnership with Sandag. As you know, Sandag and Caltrans have been working very closely with our Mexican partners to deliver Otay Mesa 2. Speaking of Otay Mesa 2, as you know, this is one of our 5 priorities that we established 3 years ago. We are working as hard as humanly possible to make sure that this project is delivered to both regions September 2024. And we are on schedule to do that. I want to thank all of you, thank Mary Gloria for continuing to push Custom Protection and General Service Administration to fund the staffing for this project. Our staff applied for TIFIA loan last week. For 2 days, we met with the funding, with the rating agencies, specifically with Moody's, Fitch, and S&P. Over 2 days, described the project, and we hope to hear from them some indication early next week. This is a project that we think that's going to define not only the 2 binational regions, but it's going to define our trading partnership nationwide. The benefits are not just to San Diego, but to California and to the country. We're very proud of what our partnership with Caltrans and what we will be delivering to San Diegans in a couple of years. Also on May 1st, we launched the Youth Opportunity Pass, which provides free transit to anyone in San Diego Region 18 or under. I want to thank all the leaders that were working hard for many years to make this happen. This is a life-changing opportunity for our region's youth. We saw more than 1,500 youth pass sign up during April. That's 3 times as many sign up as we saw between January through March combined. So people respond to pricing, having a mode to get from A to B, meaning having an opportunity to do more things in life, especially for our youth. This is not the end. I mean, as I told you last time, you adopted an equity statement last January. You practice what you preach. This is a first step in making sure we mean what's in that equity statement. And the preliminary numbers from MTS for the first week of the Youth Opportunity Pass show a 20% increase in weekly youth ridership systems, including 50% on trolley and 30% increase on Saturdays. I am be working with my team and many of the stakeholders, many of you, to make sure that we continue to pilot other age categories, 24 and under, and hopefully, like we had indicated, a policy in the RTP by 2030, we'll have everyone access transit for free. This is a great public resource that's underutilized. So we're going to do our best to make sure it is utilized. We take climate change seriously, and we are an example to the rest of the nation and the rest of the state of how we do this, and we did that in the 5 big moves. As the chair mentioned, we're not the only one talking about our accomplishment and achievements. We're receiving many awards, and I'm not going to list them again. But you should be proud of this agency and what it delivers to San Diegans. I am proud of the team that deliver this project to be awarded by many organizations as Projects of the Year, Planning of the Year. This agency stands for innovation. And yes, as I told the board last meeting, we're going through growing pains. We have work to do. We have policies to adopt, controls to set, but I can assure you that there is no other comparable agency in the country that delivers the project the way this agency does. We're also excited, as the chair mentioned, the Bike to Work Day, May 19th, Thursday, May 19th. Since the beginning of the year, we have opened 11 miles of bikeways and will open 11 more before the end of the year. As you know, we've been criticized, rightly so, for the slow of this program. We're catching up. Thanks to all of you in your respective cities, especially to the city of San Diego for really kicking things off this year for us to be able to deliver. I want the board members, thank the board members who have volunteered to join us for Bike to Work Day. I'm sorry we didn't see you in person today. You would have received this excellent bike map, free of charge. And you would have received, and you will still, this t-shirt, granted that this is my size, so there are smaller sizes available. T-shirt, so we'll deliver it to the stop in your city when we see you in person. But this is really exciting, and I hope you participate in this. Supporting active transportation is not about reducing commute trips, because many of the commute trips are longer, but it is about the character of a community. It is about residents being able to bike and walk freely. It is about kids being able to bike without the fear of hitting by a car. So we are taking this very seriously. We'll continue to do so. This is also the agency that you're going to hear today, very detailed presentation about the second priority we have, and that is linking our airport to rail and building the central mobility hub that this region deserves, and linking that to the rest of the transit in the region. Again, you're going to hear that today. I am hoping that in addition to delivering Otay Mesa 2 in 2024, we will be able to environmentally clear the connection to the airport in 2 years. So you should be very proud of this agency and what it does. San Diego should be, because we're delivering major infrastructure project. The third priority that I want to remind you of is we made it a point to make sure that the only goods movement corridor, the corridor that's important for national defense, the corridor that connects us to the rest of the state and the country, that's the Los Angeles corridor, is operational and running. Our stabilization process, temporary stabilization, is moving forward. We actually received an award for this work. I also want you to know that, as I said many times before, we cannot continue to fight nature and continue to pour money into stabilizing something that we think at the end the nature will win. So we are serious about moving the track off the bluff. We have almost completed the planning study, which will be followed by the environmental and design work, giving funding. And we are grateful to our leaders here and in Sacramento, especially President Pro Tem Atkins, Speaker Rendon, that are talking to the governor as we speak in securing some significant funding to make sure we clear and design this project. So once and for all, we get into the real work of moving it. So thank you for giving me the time. I right now want to turn it to our amazing Deputy CEO, Colleen Clemenson, to give you a couple of updates.
Thank you, Hassan. Good morning, board members. Just a few brief updates. The first update I want to provide to you is related to the Sande credit cards. And our management team has been working very closely with the Office of the Independent Auditor to make sure that we are implementing the action plan. We'll be giving an update, the auditor and I will be giving an update to the audit committee today. And just so everyone here knows, we are doing really 3 policies. So we're taking our credit card policy, which is called the P card, otherwise known as our purchase card, tightening up exactly how the card can be used, what it can be used for, and exactly how we document what's spent and all of the reporting on that. So that's the first policy. We're introducing 2 new policies, one on hospitality. So that lays out how and when Sande can use funds to purchase food for events, board meetings, being very specific about that and tying the costs back to what is in federal guidelines. And then the third policy is around business meals. And this establishes how and when Sande can spend funds on business meals, again, tying the cost back to federal guidelines and providing regular reports to the board of directors on what business meals were had, who attended the meals, and what the meeting purpose was. So being very clear on all of that. So we look forward to bringing that package of policies to you at your June meeting. We plan to bring the set of policies to the audit committee also in June for a recommendation. The second thing I wanted to let you know about is that Victoria Stackwick, our chief of staff, and I traveled to Washington, D.C. earlier this week, and we went to attend the Coalition for America's Gateways and Trade Corridors. This is a group that works closely together, a national organization. I was recently appointed to the board to really help ensure that the San Diego region gets its fair share of funding toward goods movement projects. And this is exactly in line with what Hassan is talking about, funding for our Otay Mesa East project and also coordinating with our port to ensure that our water ports the low sand rail corridor are all part of that discussion. And then lastly, I wanted to let you know that I'm looking forward to traveling with our chair, Blake Spear, to Sacramento next week, where we will be at the chamber trip. We will be meeting with legislators, various state agencies, talking about all the good news in San Diego and why funding should be coming to this region, because we have a lot of great things to offer. We will also be meeting with our counterparts in Sacramento. So I like to call it the Sacramento Sandag, otherwise known as SACOG. We'll be meeting with the team there and just sharing lessons learned, kind of where we are in implementing our regional plan and sustainable community strategy. So that concludes my updates, and I'll turn it back to Hassan or the chair.
Thank you, Colleen. And one last thing I want to tell the board that in the last 3 years, our agency, our region got $1.3 billion of state and federal funds. This is pertain to our amazing staff who's working really hard to bring federal and state money in. And this will continue at a bigger scale coming up. So I want to thank them for bringing all these resources. And that's one of the reasons why we're delivering more projects, and hopefully that trend will continue. So thank you, Chair. That concludes my report. Colleen or I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for the CEO report. To both of you for your hard work. Before we go, I see two of you have your hands up. I'm just going to call on public comment first on the chair, or on the Hassan report, CEO report.
Thank you, Chair. We do not have any public comments on this item.
Okay, then we'll go to the members. So Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair Blake Spear. Okay, so I just have a couple of questions. One would be on the Central Mobility Hub. I know there's been a lot of discussion about that. I'm hoping that we can get a copy of the agreement that has between the City of San Diego and then also with us, with Sandag, because I think as a board, we definitely need that information. And also whatever business plan is attached to that agreement, I think that would be important for us all to have. So I would ask that that be provided to the entire board, including a detailed plot map, because it's very difficult to tell from the actual information that has been given to us. I don't feel like it's very thorough. And then that's one thing that I would like given to the board members. And then also, I'm really happy to see, Colleen had mentioned this, the information about the P card, and then also the hospitality, and then the business meals as far as those things that are moving forward, those different policies. Really excited to see that. I also would like to make sure that, and I had put a request in writing that all of that information going back would be provided to the board as part of an audit by our independent auditors, so that we could actually know and have confidence that moving forward, we have all of that information of what's happened in the past. That would be on the reimbursements that I requested previously at the last board meeting, and then also in writing that day as well, that we will have that information provided to the auditors, so we would be able to get that audited and be able to just put this in the past and move forward.
Okay, thank you. And to your first question, the next item is a report on the Central Mobility Hub. So hopefully some of that information that you were, the map and that stuff will be available at that presentation. So thank you for your member comments. And now we'll go to Mayor Gasterland.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have questions on 3 topics, and I'll try to make them very direct and clear. The first topic, I want to take just a few extra moments, though. The first topic is the free youth passes. I crafted an email that I sent out to about 3,000 people in Del Mar about the free youth passes, and got back quite a bit of really positive and also constructive, that's how I'll label it, feedback on the passes for the youth. And I wanted to relay some of the questions to our chair, and maybe we can put together a task force on really optimizing the free youth passes. One question is, at what age can kids ride alone? Can they ride alone at any age? Can kids who are riding alone ride up front? And is there a way to put more bikes on the fronts of the buses? And, you know, there's no easy way to get from the 101 bus to the trolley. There's no easy way to get from bus X to the trolley. So I think there's some ways that we can think through. Oh, and then the other one was bus stops in front of schools. So I'd like to see us really thinking about how to use this moment with this new ridership group, really take advantage of this. Perhaps our director could just remark on how we might go about this.
And if I may, we provide all that feedback to us, because this is a pilot project. And so we're gathering as much data as possible, because going forward, if we're going to make this something that's permanent, we need to make it the best possible. So thank you for that, Mayor.
Yeah, that connectivity between the buses and the trolleys is something that I had not appreciated until people said, well, wait a minute, you know, if my kid has to go to Balboa Park, you know, they've got to take the 101 bus, walk all the way across campus, get to the trolley. So there's an example. Excuse me. And related to that, I'd actually like to understand the distribution of the ages of the youth in San Diego, and especially who are walkable to the buses. And I'm thinking kids who are age 11 to 12, 13 to 15, and 16 to 18. Those are really 3 different user groups. And I'd like to see us looking at those groups specifically. I think there's a real opportunity here. So that's coming from me.
Just council member, these are great questions, and our transit agencies, I'm sure, will have the information, especially about how old you can be to ride transit and where you sit. Regarding the putting more bicycles on the tracks, I think there were a state bill that limits the number. So we have to change a state law for us to be able to do that. But these are great questions that we'll get back to you on some of them after talking to our transit operators.
That's terrific. Well, I want to convey excitement about this. I also would like to offer my letter that I wrote to the community as a template. It gives the bus number, it gives how to get on the bus, how to download the card, and that people found the instructions a little easier than they had gotten from Sandag directly on the page. So I'll send that to the clerk, and perhaps she can distribute it to the other members.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, go ahead with the other.
So well, my next question is, I just want to echo about seeing the map and the information about the hub. I do get questions, and I would very much like to be in a position as a board member to answer that. So I'm reinforcing Mayor Jones's remarks. And then my last question is, I've heard from the Surfrider Foundation that the Del Mar Bluff Stabilization Phase 5 is going to be on the Coastal Commission agenda in June. And is that the case? And how are we going to learn more about it? Thank you.
We'll get you more information on the Coastal Commission agenda. I think, as I told you before, we received correspondence from the CEO of the Coastal Commission, Jack Ainsworth, to the desire to couple that with the fencing, and we responded to that letter, and I think they're discussing that with the Coastal Commission, but we'll get you more detail.
Terrific. I'm fully available to work on that with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gustavo Delarda from Caltrans.
Thank you, Chair Blakespeare. I wanted to comment quickly on the awards that you mentioned, Chair, as well as Hassan, the Executive Director. What I wanted to mention is that the number of awards received by the region speaks volumes about the quality of the transportation projects that we put together in this region. So I'm really proud of the partnership between Caltrans and Sandag in this region, and all the great work that Sandag and Caltrans staff did on these projects. If I may point out to one of the categories which is advanced technology for the CTF awards, San Diego has 2 out of the 3 finalists in that region. One is for the vehicle to infrastructure pilot on I-15. The other one is for emergency zero emission power for critical ITS assets that we deployed in this region. So we don't only have great traditional transportation projects, but we're also leading the state in innovation as well. And on May 19th, our district is happy to host one of the stops for Bike to Work Day. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you for the comments. We will now move to the Central Mobility Hub item. So this is our first report. And I just want to say, I know there's been some frustration from board members who don't feel that they're involved as this project has evolved and continues to evolve. There are several important stakeholders, and I think they're going to speak here at the beginning. So first we'll hear from the mayor of San Diego, the Vice Chair Gloria. Then we'll also hear from the chair of the port, Joe, and we'll also hear from the chair of the airport, Gil. So I'll hand it over first to Vice Chair Gloria to kick it off.
Thank you, Chair, and appreciate the introduction. Anyone who knows me knows that I've long been talking about trying to connect our airport to our transit system. And I would observe from the start that if this was easy, it would have been done already. Clearly, it isn't easy, but I think that we have an alignment in terms of the leadership, many of whom are on this screen, and the agencies who really have identified this as being something that we need to get taken care of. And I'm certainly here as a member of this board, as well as Mayor of San Diego, to say, we're all in and trying to make this happen. And I have confidence in Sandag's ability to advance big transformational projects. We clearly have done that recently with Mid-Coast. I believe they'll be doing that soon at Otay Mesa East. And I hope that we can add this particular project to the list of ones that we're trying to advance to make a quantifiable difference in the quality of life for our entire region. I'm optimistic about this, making this connection possible because of the unique opportunities that are presented by our relationship, both with the Airport Authority and with the Port of San Diego, and again, with the City of San Diego, MTS, and others. I want to be clear that I'm laser focused on connecting transit to our amazing international airport, which will only get better as the airport moves forward with its Terminal 1 redevelopment. I know it's not going to be done anytime soon, so we have time. We have a lot of time to work on this. But I think as that facility is enhanced and improved, this demand for this service will become even more urgent. Beyond that core focus, I want to ensure that a project of this nature will support the other goals that our region has, specifically reducing GHG emissions, leveraging our existing transportation investments, and being a true regional partner. All of us are here on behalf of different jurisdictions. This has to work for all of us. My hope and belief is that it will. I'm sure staff will discuss this, but I hope that we can learn about the next steps in continuing to engage the many community partners that will touch this project, especially on this board and our transit operators. And in the spirit of that collaboration, I'm glad to know that our port CEO is here today, and I'm happy to toss it to my friend Joe Stuyvesant for some perspective from the port. Joe?
Thank you, Mayor Gloria and Chair Blakespear. Let me start by saying the Port of San Diego is committed to being an engaged partner enhancing mobility and connectivity for the region. Regional challenges require robust stakeholder partnerships. And it's with these regional partnerships that we're able to accomplish major critical projects in support of our community. As we think about connectivity to the airport, our port property is uniquely placed. We're next to the airport, the freeway, the trolley lines, the consolidated rental car center. As we envision a future complete with numerous mobility options for residents, visitors, travelers, this site seems to make a lot of sense. And we're committed to partnering on this. We're excited to partner with Sandag, the city, and the airport on this important project. I'll now pass the mic over to our partner agency leader, Mr. Gil Cabrera, San Diego County Regional Airport Authority Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Hello, everyone. The Airport Authority is also happy to partner with everyone today. And as folks know, our new Terminal 1 project aims to create a better airport experience as well as accommodate all the expected passenger growth. And we all know we're currently under construction as we speak. And I know Mayor Gloria mentioned it's going to take some time, but we are working steadily and moving the process forward. Any transit connection that enhances our airport and our passenger experience is going to be something that we are looking forward to supporting. And I'm so proud of our team for working with Sandag's team to make sure that the project works with Sandag's vision, including through our design process for the new T1, which has been going on for some time now between the two agencies. So I know we're all excited to continue working together, and I can hand it back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those comments from the agencies that are closely involved in helping to plan this. So we'll hand it over to Sandex staff now, and then after that, Mayor Salas, I'll call on you, but let's hear the actual presentation. So I think, is it Colleen, you're gonna kick it off?
Yes, Chair, I'm going to kick it off. So thank you very much. And thank you all for your attention in this. I think we've talked about this for some time. For decades, this region has been talking about how to connect high-speed, safe, quality transit to our international airport. And today we have a leading concept to share with you all. And we know you have lots of questions. Many of those have been asked even today. We're here to answer as many of those questions as we can. But I also want to let you all know that there's a lot of additional work that needs to be done. And many of those questions we will not be able to answer until we do the additional analysis. In fact, our next step is to take this leading concept and compare it to other options. This kind of investment for the region is so important. And we need to make sure that whatever it is that we end up putting forward has the best opportunity for ridership, safety, convenience, and truly addresses the multiple needs of this region. This is a regional investment, so it's really important that we get it right. With me today is our project director, Ryan Kohut, and Lisa Trifoletti with Trifoletti Consulting. And Lisa has been helping us over the last 2.5 years on this effort. And she has extensive background in making connections to an airport. In fact, right now at LAX, they're breaking ground on an automated people mover, and Lisa was the one who led that charge. She's also working on a connection from transit to Sophie Stadium, and they've just cleared the environmental process. So very pleased to have her with us on the team. One of the things I want to make sure we're very clear on with all of this, and if you guys could go to the slideshow and just go to the second slide, that would be terrific. We're talking about this effort in really two components. There's the airport transit connection and a downtown central mobility hub. So these are synergistic and they work together, but we're looking at them as two pieces. And it's really important to just kind of set the stage in terms of background, like what is it that we're solving for? How did we get here? Where are we now? And what are the next steps? And this really started at the end of 2018 when the Sande Board of Directors took an action to establish a subcommittee to look at how we could make a meaningful connection to the airport. That subcommittee was chaired by then Chair Mayor Voss, and Mayor Faulkner from the city of San Diego served on the committee. We had a representative from the port, from the airport, from Caltrans, and other stakeholders. And over about an 8-month process, the subcommittee worked to produce a report that came up with multiple options. Then the Sande Board of Directors authorized funding to do a deeper dive into each of those options, to come up with meaningful concepts and how we could proceed forward. In 2020, an MOU was approved by the Board of Directors, along with the Port of San Diego, along with the City of San Diego and the Airport Authority, that we were committed to working together to solve this enormous challenge for the region. That was followed by the Airport Authority committing $350 million toward a project that would help address this problem. So work has been underway for some time here. And as we talked with all of the stakeholders, we really asked the questions of what is it that would make this project successful? In December of last year, and you can go to the next slide, thank you, production. In December of last year, the Board of Directors approved the regional plan, which really calls for a central mobility hub as a key element to our transportation network. So really what we're talking about is a central mobility hub that has a direct connection to the airport. The next slide, what are the critical needs that we're solving for? So as we talk to the partners, as we go out and talk to the community, we hear it needs to be fast, achievable transit. We need to be addressing congestion in the environment right around the airport, but we also need to be looking at this holistically to meet our climate mandates and to look at how this helps to envision and implement our regional plan. So with your feedback today and going forward, we will be able to make this world-class transit connection to our airport. Again, we want to hear your questions today. We will answer as many of them as we can, and we'll make notes for the ones that we can come back and talk with you about in the future. And we're absolutely committed to working closely with this board and keeping you informed all along the way.
Yeah, as Colleen mentioned a little bit of the history of this project. In 2018, the board formed the Airport Connectivity Subcommittee. This subcommittee looked at solutions to solve the longstanding problem of how to integrate the current and future modes of transportation and to connect the airport to transit. The subcommittee made recommendations to the board to explore 3 options. The first was a central mobility hub at the Navy's Old Town campus. The second was a central mobility at what we call the Intermodal Transit Center. And the third was the subcommittee asked us to explore the possibility of an extension of the existing trolley system to the airport. In September of 2019, the board voted to adopt that recommendation and created the Central Mobility Hub project. At the same time, the board appropriated $40 million to begin work. In April of 2021, Sande formally began the environmental review process under CEQA, and public scoping meetings were held where testimony was taken from the public on the 3 alternatives advanced by the board. This process allowed the public to tell the agency what they thought about the proposed project and the alternatives that were being considered. 2 significant themes emerged out of that outreach process. The first was that the Port of San Diego, wrote a letter to Sande and asked us to consider the potential use of port property for a transit connection. And the second was that we received a lot of comment from the public, from stakeholders, that we should be looking to make that central mobility hub investment and any transit connection serve the downtown urban core of San Diego. As required by CEQA, Sande and staff began really studying these suggestions to see if they were viable, more or less impactful than the alternatives that we started with, and whether they better serve the objectives of the project as provided to us by the board. In December of 2021, staff presented an update to this board on the progress of the project. And we introduced these new concepts that included the potential for the port property and that we were looking at downtown San Diego. Since December, we've been studying these concepts, much of which forms the proposed project alternative that we want to brief the board on today. A lot more work needs to be done to better understand the potential of this potential project concept and the other alternatives that are still under consideration. It is our intent to update this board again later this year with more information when we are getting close to ready to go back out again with a new public scoping process where we can get more feedback from the public on a refined set of potential project alternatives. This is the same CEQA process that we use for all of our projects and that this agency has used on other projects of similar scale, such as Midcoast. The ultimate result of this process is to provide this board with a recommendation for a project that would best meet the region's goals. We are really excited about the progress we've made over the last several months, the collaboration we've had with our partners, and that the mutual benefits to the port, the airport, the city, Caltrans, and our transit partners. We are here to present you with this concept that we will use to compare against other alternatives, including a trolley connection, and bring that comparative analysis back when it's ready to this board.
When we first started the airport subcommittee, we initiated the work looking at how other airports connect to transit. And in many airport environments, you have an automated transit system that connect people intra-terminal to landside facilities such as parking and a rental car, and then to transit. And it's exactly when I was working at LAX, we had tried to work to solve this connection to Metro Regional Rail System, which has also not been solved for decades, and now it's under construction, in large part because of the collaboration. The automated transit systems are similar to manually operated technologies like the trolley, except that they operate on an automated train control system. They're centrally controlled with no in-vehicle drivers, and they're designed for airport environments, for airport passengers with luggage, with strollers, with low floors for easy boarding. They typically operate in 24-hour service. They have very short wait times, 2 to 3 minute headways and frequencies. They can be many different technologies: rubber tire, cable pulled systems, monorail, and really, these systems are multi-level, they connect to multi-level terminals. They're often grade separated because they have to travel on, and they travel on steeper, narrow guideways to thread the needle in these complex built airport environments. So we've learned a lot from looking at other examples. We're looking for best practices and how they can apply here in San Diego. And we all share the common goal of really increasing and lifting the transit ridership, which currently hovers between 1% and 1.5% today. So the attractiveness of the system here in San Diego and at the forefront of our goals is to really provide that time-certain travel, really looking at how we can provide frequencies, which is a very important and time-sensitive airport travelers, but we also tried, as Colleen and Ryan described, to navigate the critical constrained areas where there's a lot of competing demand for the roads, limiting impacts on airport and port facilities, activating the city's goals for pedestrian and safe bicycle lanes. And so that's really a concept that we want to share with you today. And as Ryan said, we'll be comparing it to other systems. So next slide. So we have developed a system that really has 2 legs. It's looking to address regional connection demands and solving for this transportation congestion in and around the airport. And it is a proposed concept for an automated transit system with the 2 segments designed to work together to serve everyone, whether you're coming from the north or the south. And downtown connection is intended to serve our existing transit users coming from the south, to serve tourists, conventionaires, people who do business in downtown San Diego who need to get to and from the airport. And, as we connect to Santa Fe Depot, we would be poised and set up to bring everything together potentially in a future downtown central mobility hub, which Colleen explained is a separate and independent project, but has a lot of synergy and a lot of complements to the goals of revitalizing downtown. The northern connection from the terminal to the Port Transit Center at Middletown allows us to connect to the existing trolley system, as well as enable a multimodal center, which has a great intercept point for cars coming off the I-5 freeway. We can have a dedicated pickup and drop-off area and a great connection to the airport or rental car system, allowing the airport to get out of the shuttle business. This combined system will make a great connection to the city's transit facility. We anticipate it will greatly reduce congestion on the local roadways and support the port's goal to activate the great waterfront. The next slide, please. So let's just talk for a second about the downtown core. We know how important it is to connect to downtown. And again, all of this is to work as one system. Getting to downtown, whether you're the trolley or automated transit system, definitely has some challenges there's a robust study underway to be able to make that connection successful. Next slide. So we have done extensive work to date, looking at, what it means to connect down Harbor as well as Pack Highway. And we recognize that, again, whatever the mode is, we have to solve these critical challenges, whether they're utility conflicts, soils issues, seawalls, constructability, crossing active trains. We've looked at the implications about staying along Harbor Drive. And, while the FAA, if you can see that area shaded in pink, has required us to be trenched when you get around the end of the runway in a runway protection zone, we're looking at the feasibility of staying below grade in a trench and be able to stay underground as long as possible. So all of this is underway. We still need to complete a lot of the diligence. And as we help solve for those challenges, we'll be able to come back and report back as to which system really ends up serving all of the interests. Next slide. Now, where we have spent a lot of our time over the last 2 years, and we appreciate everybody who had words of support today for the process, is looking at the northern segment. This leg connects directly to the existing San Diego trolley system. And again, as we said, really is trying to complement the great work underway. The airport Terminal 1 project will deliver a new state-of-the-art terminal, designed to improve passenger experience and transform the San Diego's air transportation gateway. The port is reimagining the waterfront. It's released its port master plan, and we're looking to be able to accommodate their goals to have commercial uses such as hotels, restaurants, and visitors serving retail while preserving and enhancing recreational amenities. And so these are wonderful initiatives in the region, and we all have common objectives for relieving traffic along those congested corridors. The backbone of the port and the airport also is our employee base, and that is a very attractive segment of our transit ridership population. And so we're looking at, again, how these pieces can go together to meaningfully increase transit ridership. Next slide. So what you see here is just an example and what demonstrates this intense stakeholder coordination and work to date. We've been drilling down with our partners, making sure that we respect the needs of the San Diego airport to limit our footprint, making sure we don't, impinge on their important cargo areas, making sure we understand how the airport access roads, which are now in design and construction, so that we're able to navigate through, making sure we respect the requirements of the FAA. Obviously, they do not allow folks to tunnel under active working airports, so we're working around the end of the runway and have to respect critical airspace. We're proactively working to try to mitigate environmental species in the area, looking at how we can, again, help the port reduce lanes on Harbor Drive to activate a dedicated pedestrian and bike path, and again, connect to a potential future development at the south side of Harbor Drive. And then again, reemerge and get back over that two-level roadway system to land in that critical space that the airport has reserved for the transit-ready area, and providing reasonable walk distances to the airports that you see across the country. And so we have been working to thread the needle. This is a leading concept that we definitely need to keep refining with our stakeholders, and we will do, as Colleen said, we're going to compare this performance, its ridership, its cost, its again, ability to address all of these, constructability issues and how we can deliver this in the most efficient way, and then compare it to the other alternatives.
We are really appreciative of the port's willingness to let us explore and study the use of their property for transit purposes. This is what we think a transit center on the port site might look like, incorporating and improving the existing Middletown trolley station. The site is adjacent to Coaster, Amtrak rail, our trolley rail, as well as Interstate 5. This station would provide a simple and convenient option to connect to the airport through a transit connector. Direct access ramps from Interstate 5 would allow vehicles and buses to quickly enter and leave this transit center from both north and southbound Interstate 5. Also, the site is ideal for critical infrastructure such as a maintenance facility for the connector vehicles. You know, this site provides options and choices for how people who are either coming in on transit from the north, coming in off the trolley, or who want to access the airport by being dropped off from Interstate 5 and allow them to get quickly to the airport terminals. The benefits are plentiful. We are committed to providing a system that can deliver what airport users expect in a transit connection. Fast, efficient trains that arrive every 2 to 4 minutes, which is what people, when you're trying to get to your flight and you need time certain travel, you need to know that that connection is only a minute or so away. Our very early and preliminary ridership projections suggest more than 50,000 people a day would use the complete system north and south. Cost estimates are ranging somewhere between 2 and 4 billion, which we hope to narrow as we start to do some of the hard work and the preliminary engineering, especially on that southern leg, and try to figure out if that is going to be above or below ground. Continued engagement with our project partners and stakeholders will remain a top priority as we try to bring this forward for the region. In September of 19, the board appropriated $40 million towards the development of this project. To date, we have spent $20.6 million of that original $40 million budgeted. The bulk of this has been towards preliminary engineering and environmental analysis. Some of this effort went towards the study of a potential central mobility hub on the Navy's Old Town campus. Questions have been asked about how much was spent on the Navy site versus other alternatives. There were certain expenditures that were specific to our analysis of the Navy site, such as work done to analyze how that overall project might have impacts under CEQA, and there was work done to determine the scale and size of what the Navy would need in a new facility so that we could know whether that was viable, a viable transaction with this project. However, most of the work done was not tied directly to a specific site or alternative. Surveying, right-of-way mapping, analyzing the local roadway network, and other technical studies are done across the project area and have been done for multiple alternatives. Fortunately, most of this work has been useful in developing what we have before you today. The car rental to port transit site to airport connection, that leg, is really the same alignment that it would have been to connect the airport to the Navy site. We are working feverishly to make this airport connection a reality here in San Diego. Staff is going to continue doing the engineering and environmental analysis to really understand this concept as well as the other alternatives. And then later this year, with board input, we would like to go back out to the public, again, with a public scoping process to get more information and feedback as we put out a notice of preparation on a revised set of alternatives. We want to continue meeting with this board and in keeping it informed on what we're doing and the progress that we're making. And then we want to keep working with our agency partners, the city, the port, the airport, our transit operators, Caltrans, to help work together to try to advance this important project. And the end result, or the end goal, is we want to get a project before this board that we can get into that funding pipeline as the federal government has made a major investment nationally in projects like this.
So I hope we've made it clear through the presentation that this team wants to work closely with the board to make this a reality. I think you've probably sensed the seriousness in our tone in this presentation because this is serious. We're talking about a big commitment for the region. At the same time, this is a truly incredible, exciting opportunity, something this region has wanted for a long time. We have the partners to make it happen, and we have the team in place that can make this a reality. So we're very excited for the discussion. There are a lot of questions that have yet to be answered. I think, Mayor Jones, you brought up a good question about wanting to see the agreement with the city. We don't have that yet. There's a lot more work that has to be done before we would enter into an agreement with the city of San Diego. We often hear from the chair about analysis paralysis in government, and we want to be the antithesis of that. So we're excited to be here today, appreciate all your interest, and want to thank you for your time, and I will turn it back to the chair.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that presentation and the maps that are newly I hadn't seen some of those before, so I think it's always really helpful to have the visuals. And you also just can see from that presentation the complexity of this, the different agencies, all the different uses, the land use. And so, you know, it's important for us to appreciate that complexity, and I'm grateful that you brought it to us today. And so first, I see a lot of hands up from the board members, but I want to get to the public comments first. So I think we have 3, so let's go ahead and take those first, and then we'll go to board.
Thank you, Chair. We actually now have 1 in-person public comment and 4 virtual. So we'll start with Catherine Rhodes, and after Catherine, we'll go to Alex Wong virtually. Catherine, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Wonderful. Hi, this is Catherine Rhodes.
Catherine, can you turn your mic on, please? Sorry.
Hello. Hi, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I'm excited for this project. A legal opinion confirming grandfathered airport revenue status for San Diego International Airport, Thailand, similar to New York, Boston, San Francisco, from the State Lands Commission could fully fund and give you billions in revenue for a central mobility hub and airport connectivity. And as a reminder, direct access ramps from Interstate 5 to the rental car Center already has CEQA and California Coastal Commission approvals with pre-approved funding for off-site mitigation for the rental car service, which of course came under budget because they refused to mitigate or spend money off-site. The airport currently pays $1 to the port for the airport lease, and so if you get another lease, it should cost $1, not anymore. As the airport authority stated, a transfer of adjacent property interest to the airport through a right-of-way could increase the PFC eligibility for the on-airport portion of a rail system. But as they wrote, if they don't want to fund a project, they're just going to sabotage you at the FAA airport district officer in Los Angeles, which they've done for every other project. That's why we haven't had any mitigation for any of these projects. And so, and what they also said is if you, with this new thing, there's going to be astronomical cost eligibilities for if you do a people mover. Perfect. They told you exactly what to do. You get full funding for a people mover. They wrote it down. It's true. And so also, you know, I'm very glad that you're going to do it underground, not above ground. I'm very happy about that. You know, I always talk about a full tide reclamations on your public tide lands because otherwise you're not going to be able to future-proof any of the port tide lands against sea level rise. And so, and if you do this, you'll have a proof of concept that could not only be used for this project, but it could be used for the whole entire airport area, which is, you know, subject to liquefaction in the Midway area and port tidelands. And so, let's see. And of course, when I went to the airport's budget, they don't have any type of budget for the Central Mobility Hub or to pay for any of these offsite mitigations that they, you know, they're previously supposed to do. And I agree that a downtown location, I don't actually agree with the downtown location. I like the port location, but I think analyzing it during the CEQA process would be really good for the city of San Diego because they need desperate help to do their big, huge project, and this will give us really good info. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Alex Wong, who will be followed by Noah Harris.
Yes, so this is Alex Wong, and I would like to explain to the board and the public why an automated people mover connecting Santa Fe Airport as well as the Port Authority grounds to the airport is superior to an airport trolley extension. First, cost. 2019 airport connectivity analysis found that the airport people mover would cost less per passenger mile to build and operate than an airport trolley would. Second, convenience. The airport connectivity analysis found that an airport trolley extension would likely come at only 15-minute intervals. This is inconvenient. No one wants to wait up to 15 minutes just to take a 10-minute ride between the airport and downtown. By contrast, an airport people mover would provide 4-minute frequencies for better. Frequency is crucial. It's one of the top, if not the top driver of ridership, because as studies repeatedly show, a minute spent waiting for the train can feel up to twice as long as a minute spent driving on board the train. And finally, expandability. Cities from Tokyo, Shanghai, Singapore, and Macau have took the same people mover technologies used at the American airports to serve dense urban neighborhoods outside airports. Likewise, Sande could later extend the people mover to major destinations like the Liberty Station, Sports Arena, and more. Best of all, it would be cheaper to build a people mover than a trolley line underground midway. Why? Because people mover trains, being shorter in length than trolley trains, would require shorter platforms and therefore shorter stations. And as transit analyst Alan Levy has discovered, cutting station costs is key to cutting costs, since in most US subway projects, stations are the biggest cost driver. Sande should use the best people mover technology. There are several people mover technologies on the market. Cable-drawn people movers, as such as the cable liner, may be cheap to build, but the end product is inferior. One implementation of the cable liner, the Oakland Airport Connector, costs only $500 million for 3.2 miles, or $160 million per mile to build, but the resulting ridership has been underwhelming at only 2,600 passengers daily. This is due to the Oakland Airport Connector having low frequencies at only 4.5-minute frequencies maximum. Contrast this with the Bombardier, Inauguration, 300, or the Mitsubishi Crystal Mover people movers, which run trains as frequently as every 90 seconds. Both technologies have no cables. Trains instead propel themselves via onboard motors. This technology may cost in around $500 to $750 million per mile, but it is well worth it as it provides far more capacity and frequency than the cable liner. The LAX APM, which uses self-propelled Novia 300 technology, will run every 2 minutes, moving up to 10,000 people per hour per direction, 5 times more than the Oakland Airport Connector. I would also like to say that, yes, while I believe that if you can only build one or the other, I would definitely build the airports to the Port Authority leg of the airport people mover first. But I also believe that since you have enough money, you might as well just directly connect downtown Santa Fe Depot to the airport with a one-seat route, which will provide the maximum convenience to people traveling from the south of the airport, as well as already having a Port Authority station for maximum convenience for people coming from the north. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Noah Harris, who will be followed by Josh Coyne.
Good morning, Chair and Board. This is Noah Harris with Climate Action Campaign. At CAC, we are committed to achieving a zero carbon region to stop the worst impacts of the climate crisis. However, the climate emergency is here. Wildfire, extreme heat, drought, bluff collapse, and other climate impacts are intensifying each year. As such, we are committed to securing a San Diego region that is prepared for and resilient to these worsening climate impacts. We urge Sande to ensure that any regional transit connection to the airport is adequately protected from increasing sea level rise and groundwater rise, which threaten the areas of the proposed routes under examination. As a region, we must ensure that needed sustainable transportation infrastructure projects that will require a significant investment of the region's dollars will be climate resilient far into the future. Thank you for ensuring a climate safe, climate ready future for San Diego.
Thank you. Next will be Josh Coyne, who will be followed by Jesse O'Sullivan.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Are you able to hear us, Josh? I'm going to move on to Jesse and then come back to Josh. Jesse O'Sullivan, you can go ahead.
Good morning. Thanks for the presentation. First of all, my name is Jesse O'Sullivan. I'm policy counsel at Circulate San Diego. We sent a letter last year asking that Sande reconsider the proposed routing for the airport connector. As it went out and around the airport all the way up to Old Town. And so congratulations on the new maps. It looks like much better routing, much more efficient. So first of all, I want to congratulate you on that. Secondly, I want to make sure, I think this is in your minds, but I'm going to say it anyway, just to make sure that to reiterate it, it's really important to consider airport workers when designing and planning for this route. It has to be something that connects well with existing transit. I know there's a desire to connect the northern section of the People Mover with the 5 freeway. That makes sense, but however that's done, it needs to also be kept in mind that there's the potential to deter transit ridership by surrounding the station with cars. So in general, Circulate's really in support of an airport connector. It's definitely sounds like there's some positive developments happening, and I hope that you keep those considerations in mind going forward. That concludes my comments.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to Josh Coyne now. Josh, you're self-muted at the moment. You can go ahead with your comments when you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. So sorry about my technical difficulties. Good morning, Chair and Sandag Board of Directors. I'm Josh Coyne with the Downtown San Diego Partnership. We support development, stimulate business and economic growth, and advocate for improvements to enhance downtown San Diego. Our 2021 downtown demographics study, in partnership with the EDC, cited a better commute as the reason 61% of those that do not live or work downtown say they would want to work downtown. Conversely, the cost and availability of parking is the biggest detriment to working downtown, both for those already doing so and those working elsewhere. Connecting our urban core via the Santa Fe station with the port property, and then ultimately the airport with car alternative transportation will maximize ridership and allow those living, working, and traveling to or from downtown a more seamless connection. We support the progress on this project, but also look forward to Sandag expeditiously completing the goal of a world-class central mobility hub in downtown San Diego to better connect civic services and programs. Thank you to Sandag staff for keeping this important project moving forward. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, and Chair, that concludes the public commenters.
Okay, thank you. First, we have, her hand's been up for a long time, Mayor Salas.
Oops, yes, I have a lot to get off my chest, okay? Some of it good, some of it I don't think people will want to hear. And I just want to start by saying I love Todd Gloria. I think he's a brilliant and wonderful colleague, but I was kind of a little put off by saying that, you know, a majority of the board was ready to go one way or the other. And to Colleen, I agree that we've been talking about these options for a long time. And I'm glad to see that we're still considering options and that there's no predetermined way that this is going to go. Because I just have not enough information to make a good decision to make sure that whatever option that we're choosing is efficient, is cost effective, is viable, is doable, and that meets the objectives that we want to, but being practical. And so I need to know that before I'm going to be driven in one direction or another. And the reason why I think that we're being driven in one direction or another, it seems to me that when things happen, like a newspaper article talking about the great people mover and having Hassan and Todd as a face of that, and the board not being informed that there's an article coming on board, much less in asking or getting consensus that this is the direction that we're most favoring, because that's what it seems to me. It seems to be to me. And I was listening about all the agencies that you were listing, and it just stuck out to me that one really important agency that wasn't mentioned was MTS. Now, I've heard that they were involved in some discussions at the beginning, like we all were. But from my understanding, they got the preliminary plans or something outlining the people mover. And that was the first that they knew that Sandag was going in that direction. So I just have to get that off my chest, because I think that most of all, I do want to reiterate that I think that we need a strong and united Sandag. I really believe that. And I think that it's necessary for our region to get things done. But I'm beginning to think that there's not enough communication, that yes, we get the reports but again, I don't think that we're getting timely information on the progress that's being made and I know that I've heard in this discussion, there's still a lot of questions, there's still a lot of analysis, there's still a lot of cost factors to do. But my God, get the board more involved in this before publicity comes out or before staff goes in they're not telling us they're going to select this, but certainly the way that this is being presented, that's clearly the direction that the staff is determining that we need to go. And I know that they're good planners. I know that they have all this talent and they know more than the lay people like us do, but we still are in charge of the decision making. And for God's sakes, let us make an informed decision where we get the information in a timely manner so that we can build that cohesiveness that we need at Sande. And those are my comments. And I'm glad that we're still considering openly and honestly all the options on the table.
Thank you, Mayor. Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Hi, thank you so much, Chair Blakespear. So I have actually a number of questions and comments. And so I want to apologize in advance. I feel like this is such an important set of decisions, and I just really want to make sure I'm fully educated and, really understand sort of the rationale and the thinking behind where we are and sort of what we need to do moving forward. So, Catherine, Chair Blakespear, if you wouldn't mind, I just have a couple of questions for staff and then a couple of comments if that's okay.
Definitely do it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for my first question, I guess I first want to sort of explain how I'm sort of thinking about the question in front of us, right? Which is there's two issues. One is where the transit connections are, right? Is it at the Port Transit Center? Is it at the Downtown Central Mobility Hub? Is there another third or fourth option that we should be considering? So where are those connections with the people mover? And kind of like what facilities are there at those places where those connections are? That's sort of one set of questions. And the other is like, what does that people mover look like? How is it built? What kind of people mover is it? What is that, a fixed line rail? I mean, I know that's obviously the assumption here, but those are interrelated questions, but to me, a little bit distinct and different issues. So I guess I just want to begin with just on the first question of like where those connections would be. I think for me, when I think about this, I think I'm kind of coming at it from the perspective of, okay, people are going to be coming from the south, people are going to be coming from the north, and some people are going to be coming by car. So some people are coming from a trolley or a train from the south, and people are coming, on the coaster or Amtrak from the north, and some people are going to drive. So we kind of got to be prepared for all three of these ways for people getting to airport. So with that kind of question in mind, or that sort of frame in mind, so I'm just wondering as a first question, why we're not, sort of how does the port headquarters, and I guess I just want to better understand why not Old Town? Like there's a train that goes to Old Town that stops at Old Town, which is convenient for people coming from the north. But right now there's no Amtrak or coaster that goes to the port or to the Middletown trolley station. So why aren't we looking at the Old Town station as a place that the people mover would stop?
Production, can I get slide 8, please? No, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm just waiting for the map here. Yes, I mean, we're looking at really creating two new robust transit connections. First at the Port Transit Center at the existing Middletown trolley station. That, Port Transit Center is about 13 acres. It really provides the ability to integrate the existing Middletown trolley station with the APM or other transit connection to the airport. But, what's so great about that port site is that it's adjacent to not only I-5, but the existing rail connections are already right there. We're planning, we're still doing a lot of planning work to figure out, all the details, but there's room on that site to accommodate platforms for coaster and Amtrak service. There's even space there, and we've been reserving and really looking at how it would work. But there's space there for high-speed rail if that ever happens and comes down to San Diego. So we see that as it doesn't connect everything existing in future like a central mobility hub would, but it can do a lot. It provides that place for to intercept auto traffic to the airport, where that pickup drop-off traffic can be captured and then put into a transit solution. And it provides that transfer from NCTD coaster trains coming from the north, from Amtrak coming from the north, and then trolley from either direction, and gets people into that airport connector. To the south, Santa Fe Depot, it has really been the mobility hub of San Diego for the last 100 and something years. And, it's beautiful and historic, but it doesn't really have the capacity for everything we want to do, but it can do some things. Coaster comes there already, the trolley's already there. That's a great place to pick up the downtown transit community, collect them, and provide that quick trip to the airport.
But just to clarify, so the basic idea is the Port Transit Center, which does at Middletown, which does not currently have a coaster and Amtrak stop, we would build one there. And then would there still be a coaster or Amtrak stop at Old Town? So then the train stops twice in like a few minutes, and then again at Santa Fe? Is that the sort of the idea? Or would it stopping at Old Town?
That's going to have to be a discussion with, NCTD and, and Amtrak. We need to talk to them about that. But, we have the ability to plan for and eventually construct new platforms where Coaster and Amtrak could relocate that service theoretically from Old Town into that new transit center.
So then I guess just a comment on this as we look at different options, I do think there's a cost issue, right? Like, I feel like there's a trade-off. You might want to, I think it would be worth looking at, okay, option one is we have figure out how the people mover has 3 stops, or maybe it has stops at Old Town, so it can pick up folks from the coaster and Amtrak that have been coming, and it stops at the Port Transit Center, and it stops at the Downtown Central Mobility Hub. That might be one option. The other is you're moving the Amtrak and coaster stops from Old Town to the Port Transit Center, or 3, you're doing a stop at both. I think kind of thinking about that connection with the Amtrak, obviously I'm representing a lot of North County. And so sort of thinking about that connection from coming from the north, that you don't have to go downtown south to Santa Fe. And I think that seems like a pretty important consideration. And again, I would say, I think what you've outlined is really elegant, and it makes sort of conceptual sense with this Port Transit Center now that you've better explained it. But I definitely am interested in the cost, because it might be a lot more expensive or difficult to, even if it's more elegant, than just sort of going with the Old Town situation that we already have. So I think I would be at least interested in looking at those trade-offs and whether it would be worth considering not making Old Town like a bigger transit stop, but making it a part of this like airport connection system, and whether that would make more sense than moving the train stops to the Port Transit Center. I have a couple more comments, but does that make sense?
Supervisor, can I just interrupt you before you move to your next one? I just wanted staff to actually answer her question, which was why Old Town is existing and people can drive to it and park. It has an operating transit transfer. Why are we not thinking of that more seriously? Like, why are we talking exclusively about Middletown right now? Can you just answer that first question?
I think the virtue of that Port's transit center at Middletown is it's really set up well to capture traffic coming off of I-5, and it's still right adjacent to those existing transit facilities. And one of the goals that was established even out of the airport subcommittee was to find a way to reduce the traffic congestion in and around the airport, harbor front, and really find a way to capture some of that traffic and get it into transit and depressurize Laurel Street, Harbor Drive, provide a way to, pull some of the traffic out of the surrounding neighborhoods. And we really see that Port Transit Center as being really good at being able to do that. But, the supervisor brought up some, interesting questions. We do need to do detailed ridership and sensitivity analyses to figure out, what this project would do versus some of the, how the existing services such as Old Town, operate now and how they might operate in the future. So, those are
I just want to pick up on Chair Blake's first question. I mean, I think the thing is, right, like there is parking there. It is right off the freeway. Like everything you just said about the Port Transit Center, Old Town has some, I'm no expert, right? So this could be a total red herring, but what you've just described as things that the Port Transit Center would do, Old Town does that well. I mean, speaking for myself, that's how I get to the airport. I go to the Old Town and I either leave my car there, or if I'm going for a short trip, or I take the train, or, but that's usually what I do because it's just so easy coming off the airport. So again, I'm not the expert, but I feel like I needed to I would like to better understand, I'm sure there's a lot of drawbacks to the Old Town piece because you all are the experts, but there's also a lot of costs to building stuff new. And I think it would be useful to better understand the trade-offs.
That's exactly the work that we're about to embark on, which is why we're here, is to show you, what has been, designed as a concept, but now we need to drill down on the sensitivity testing, turning on different scenarios so that we can bring back to you these trade-off decisions. And you asked a question about, what is an automated transit system? I mean, it is typically grade separated, but it doesn't have to be. They can accommodate a number of different technologies. So it could be rubber tire system. It could be a cable pulled system like you see in BART. It could be a monorail system. So when we are looking at, trying to thread these needles through these complex, complex built environments, especially around the airport, we are looking at, all the different types of different technologies. And then obviously we would environmentally clear a system that you all choose, that we would choose as a preferred alternative, but we would look for the greatest footprint so that you have flexibility to choose the right technology at a later stage in the procurement process. And we have to, again, see how all of these can perform against your objectives and your questions about background and options. That's all the work that we're going to embark on now.
Okay, well, that's great. And again, I think you all have done just such a tremendous amount of work, and I really, really appreciate it. And I think this is a huge need for our region. But I definitely think I want to make sure we're all looking at all the information and not taking stuff off the table, especially that might be more cost efficient or quicker. So I do think I would find it helpful to better understand, the viability of Old Town as a part of this system, and what those trade-offs would be. So I think that's one comment that I'd like to make. And then I think the other kind of thing that I've been thinking about as looking at this is, wondering whether it's going to be necessary for this people mover to be, have like a separate grade or build a whole nother transit system, or whether there's some feasibility to use like the existing lanes that are already dedicated or could be dedicated to an electric bus that comes every 3 minutes instead of necessarily building a monorail. Although I really like monorails, I think they're pretty cool. But I'm just, in terms of cost effectiveness, wondering about that as an option. And I think I'm speaking specifically because I know there's that dedicated lane sort of behind the airport rental car center. And so when we're talking about this people mover, what are our different options on the table that we're considering and whether there are any options on the table that would not include building like a separate graded system and a separate fixed line.
We're going to keep studying. I mean, these are all great questions. And as we do that alternative analysis, we have to look at what might be less impactful alternatives. And that's, I think, where we can capture some of that thought do the homework and bring back to this board later in the year.
So if I may, Supervisor, like the staff said, the great questions, but also I think Lisa mentioned in the beginning, this is about a system that capture most ridership and be convenient enough for people to leave their car in the garages and take it. One of the big selling point for Central Mobility Hub is most transit riders would not want to do more than one transfer to get to the airport. Yes, definitely there is a cost consideration that the region have to decide whether they're willing to pay more for maybe more advanced state of the art. I mean, let us face it, you really could argue that, hey, why don't we just keep the shuttles and the buses operating? I don't think that matches an international airport with a region like ours. So you're right about the cost, but you're also reminding you that the criteria is which system will carry the most people. And I don't mean 1,000 people. I mean, which system would carry 30 to 40,000, which system will be convenient enough for a passenger with a couple of kids and a couple of bags, missing it, and 2 minutes later they find another train as opposed to waiting 15, 20 minutes. These are the kind of considerations that will be discussed in the environmental analysis work of alternatives that you're going to see coming in. I would just comment on the Mayor Salas's point. This board in 2019 authorized $40 million to start the work. And we have been hard at work to do that. You tell me what more do you want us to bring to you so you're more comfortable, we'll do it. But the point is, staff hasn't been operating in vacuum or operating without direction. Definitely that was based on an action that you took. You authorized the money, we put the teams together. I think the teams did amazing work, but there's still a lot of work to do, a lot of questions to answer. And that is why the next 2 years of clearing this project is very important.
So just to follow that up, no, that's helpful. I mean, so Hassan, I think then looking at this map, I think conceptually the idea is if you're coming from a fixed rail, like if you're coming from a trolley or a coaster, or you're walking from your office, whatever, you might go to the Santa Fe Depot. Or then the Port Transit Center is the other option. And so is the idea that you would take the Uber instead of taking your Uber or your Lyft or your taxi to the front of the airport gate where you would then get out. Instead of taking it there, you take it to the Port Transit Center at Middletown, and then you get on this monorail and you end up at your station at your door. Is that the kind of idea?
So Supervisor, I just want to make sure we're clear. We're not proposing to, get away with the old town, but the idea of building an enhanced transit stop, much more enhanced to accommodate the coaster and Amtrak at the port facility because the space is there. But also remember, regardless of where that stop is, we think that connecting the Karnak car rental facility to the airport is a critical linkage in this. Whether you stop at Old Town or you stop at the port, that's a different consideration. But you're right in your understanding. The idea, though, wherever you live in the county, whether you're in South, East, North Coastal, North Inland, the idea is you could take transit from anywhere in the county to a Central Mobility Hub and get on a people mover, either direct or wherever you want to stop to the airport within minutes. But the second point I want to make here is, and this is really the important point, is how do you capture most riders if you put a system to be more convenient? I can tell you that a system that goes every 15 to 20 minutes is not going to work. Nobody's going to wait. Sorry, nobody's going to wait that long. People mover technology, you mentioned, great question. We don't know what's the best technology, but it's going to be separated guideway system. It has to be. And we're not the only ones either did it or planned. Actually, we're the few airports in the world in a major urban area that don't have a connection. LAX will open in 2023. So we have expertise. We have a lot of companies. We just released a few months ago a request for innovative concept that a lot of companies give ideas, and we're gonna further work with them. We don't know the technology yet, but I just want this board to understand two things. We're not ahead of you. You authorize us to start work, we're doing it, and we have the best and the brightest doing it for us that have experience of somewhere else. Two, we're not in any decision point right now for you to decide one way or another. That's why I said clearly, our goal is for the next 2 years to clear this project and through the alternative analysis, do this. And finally, I want to address whatever system ends up, it is not us who's going to operate it. It is our transit agencies that will. We don't operate transit. We plan and we deliver, and they do operate. So, of course, MTS and NCTD should be at the table, part of the discussion. They have been. I also ask for your patience and give us some time to answer your questions. Excellent questions you're asking. But remember the criteria. Would you build a system that's going to cost significant amount of money? Will people take it? That's number one. Would the thousands of people work in the airport and the surrounding areas, you see this system as useful to leave their cars in the garage, to reduce vehicle mile travel, to improve greenhouse gas? Would they take it? And two, how would this system fit with the existing systems of transit? And I think those questions is being worked on right now to answer.
And Chair, if I may, I could address Old Town. The pluses to Old Town, is that it already exists. Old Town is there, everything is stopping there, Coaster, Amtrak, but it has some limitations. It's further from the airport. Extending an APM or any other transit connection, to the airport that far north is going to cost money. And so by coming further south towards the Port Transit Center, there's just a savings there. Also, Port Transit Center, it's closer to the airport terminals. We're looking at, being able to get on an APM and access the terminals in less than 8 or 9 minutes. Whereas if you go a little further north, that of course gets longer. And then when you talk about the ability to get from I-5 into Old Town and out versus what we might be able to do with the Port Transit Center with direct access ramps, there's a real difference there. I mean, you can get off of I-5, you can navigate surface streets and get into that Old Town Transit Center, but it's not just jumping off a ramp, being able to drop somebody off and instantly being able to exit the airport like you could with a direct access ramp into a Port Transit Center. So, but these are issues that we're going to need to study further. We're going to need to refine. We're going to need to know, not just this might cost more, but know how much and how much more, so that we can come back to the board with good information that would support, this body making a good decision on behalf of the region.
I really appreciate that information. That was really helpful. I think then I'm just going to kind of conclude with 3 core comments. I think one is that any kind of transit center connection, I think, has to have a connection to the coaster and the Amtrak coming from the north, not just to the trolley. So that means that I think as you do the cost analysis, you're really looking at the cost trade-off between moving the Amtrak and coaster northern connection from Old Town to the Port Transit Center versus the cost of extending the airport mover or the people mover up to Old Town, right? Because those are both expensive things. I hear what you're saying. It's more expensive to go to Old Town with the people mover. It's also difficult and expensive to sort of move an existing Amtrak coaster stop from Old Town to Middletown. So I think those are sort of the cost trade-offs, and I think it'd be really helpful as we move forward to being able to look at, not Old Town as a transit center, but Old Town as one of the potential. Maybe it's a 3rd stop in this thing, maybe, right, or a 4th stop in addition to the 3 here, or maybe it's instead of Port Transit Center. I totally understand what you just said, but I think it would be helpful to at least be able to kind of like weigh the cost trade-offs. Number one. Number two, I think, just echoing Hassan's point, completely agree that we need a people mover system that comes extremely frequently, right? Like it has to be like every 3 minutes, every 5 minutes at the most. It cannot be longer than that or no one's going to use it. So I guess I think that's right. And then I think the third thing is, as we move forward, I do think it would be helpful to be able to look at the trade-offs between different technologies around a people mover, including ones that utilize like our existing utilize our existing streets and don't create a separate grade. And would it be possible to have like a fixed lane that you could use and you're never in traffic, and so you can come every 3 minutes? I'm not saying that is the answer whatsoever. I personally love monorails, but I think it's important to look at that because it's certainly something we could do quicker and probably a lot less expensive than other options. Again, not in favor of that at all. I think this is great work. I just want to make sure that we're looking at sort of all the options holistically. And I apologize to the whole of San Diego for monopolizing so much time in this meeting. So thank you for everyone's patience. And thank you again to staff. Like, this is amazing work. And I know we have a lot more to do, but just, a lot of really good analysis to get us so far. So thank you again.
Well, thank you, Supervisor. You don't need to apologize for participating. You actually don't dominate the conversation very much, so it's okay. Next, we have Mayor Bailey.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I have a few questions and a few comments as well. I do want to thank Mayor Salas for her comments. I want to echo those. Respectfully of the Sandag Executive Director, I actually do think that Sandag staff appears to be ahead of the board on this. On April 13th, the Sandag staff put out a press release that the subject line read, "Sandag fast tracks transit to the airport," and then went on to say, Sandag, quote, "Sandag will move forward on building a transit connection to the San Diego International Airport with downtown San Diego as the preferred location for the future central mobility hub." I have to say, I think that was bad form, and it reinforces a pattern and a narrative that many, if not most, on this board feel that they're being left out of major decisions. So I think in the future going forward, we have to have better communication overall, but specifically on this project. We have to have better collaboration, and ultimately we need to have board direction more often before flashy press releases are released going forward. So a quick clarifying question for Sandag staff. I just want to make sure I heard this correctly. Did staff say that they envision in this concept actually removing or eliminating one lane on Harbor Drive and replacing it with a bike lane? Is that what I heard?
It's not a Sandag proposal, but as part of the Port Master Plan, and I know we have some folks from the Port to talk about their Harbor Drive concept. They may be able to talk about, what their goals are for activating the waterfront, and all our program was trying to do is accommodate their goals. So maybe if Job or Stephen are on the line, they could speak to that.
I'll jump in here on this just to say that as we're looking at the Port Master Plan update, we're looking at multiple options along Harbor Drive, but all of them will be dependent upon what the region decides is the plan for airport and connectivity, so that we can add to the solution and not add additional complications.
Okay, thank you for that, Joe, much appreciated. The second question I have was about funding. I understand that staff mentioned that the airport committed to spend approximately $350 million for a transit connection. Where do we anticipate the other roughly $3 to $4 billion to come from?
I'll take that, Mayor. Like we did with other major projects, we definitely think we're gonna be successfully competing for state and federal money, but San Diegan has to also put money on the table, some local funding that we do not have. I'm grateful for the airport and their commitment. That's a significant amount of money. But if San Diegan at the end of the day don't put money, local money on the table, I think the funding plan will be in question.
Okay, thank you for that, Hassan. The reason I ask is because the latest regional transportation plan projects our region's population in 2050 to be approximately 3.7 million, which is just about 10% more, less than 10% more of what it is currently. Meanwhile, passenger traffic at the airport is expected to nearly double from over 20 million today to about 40 million over that same period. So if most of the increase in passenger traffic is not coming from our region, but instead coming from visitors outside of our region, I think fundamentally I have to question the fairness in putting the funding burden on average San Diegans and or seeking federal funds that could otherwise be used for our regional projects that move San Diegans that have long been planned for but have not yet come to fruition. So if this transit connection is going to be primarily benefiting airport passengers and the rental car facility, then I think it would be fair to go to the airport and ask for additional funding commitments, especially and also from the rental car users as well. The Phoenix Skyway, which was mentioned, the Phoenix Skyway train, which was mentioned in this report, my understanding is that it was primarily, if not entirely, funded through airport revenues and also from the rental car companies that were benefiting from it. So I'd like to see, given that this transit connection would likely benefit airport passengers the most, a larger funding commitment from the airport. I'll conclude with one last comment. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think there may be a legitimate business case for connecting transit to the airport. Airport passenger traffic is expected to increase nearly double to 40 million passengers by 2050. That is a lot of people. So I think evaluating the options for relieving that anticipated future traffic congestion is certainly worthwhile. But the way Sandag has gone about this whole process to me seems a bit haphazard. Jumping from one location at Spaywar to now this one with frankly, it seems to be minimal explanation when we've yet to answer some kind of big outstanding questions, makes me question the entire process. The majority of passengers that are likely to benefit from this transit connection, as Supervisor Lawson-Remer was pointing out, are likely to be from North County and also from downtown. And so I think the points that the supervisor was bringing up, especially for North County residents, they make a lot of sense to me in regards to the Old Town Station. And so I appreciate staff's kind of initial responses to that. But I think maybe more importantly for the entire board, it might be worthwhile for us to just hit the pause button temporarily and have Sandag staff come back to the board and inform the board, hey, here are all the potential sites within the downtown area that seem to make sense. Explain the pros and cons to each site at a high level, and then provide us with a recommendation on here is the priority of sites that we think the board should pursue based on staff's expertise. And that way, at least we kind of have a roadmap where if option one doesn't work out, then we understand why we're moving to option two. We understand why we're moving to option three. And the board isn't caught off guard by a flashy press release that kind of says all of a sudden, really without much board input at all, that we're moving from one location to another. So that would be my recommendation. I appreciate, Chair, I appreciate you letting me have the floor. Thank you.
If I may, Chair, just one question to respond to Mayor Bailey regarding who benefits from this. I can argue that tourism is an important industry. So San Diegans will benefit from not only connecting to the airport, but having a state-of-the-art system.
I agree, Hassan, I do, but if our population is only increasing by a couple 100,000 over the next 30 years, according to Sandag's own projections, but airport traffic is expected to increase about 20 million passengers over that time period, I think it's fair to ask that airport to pay for more.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Huebner.
Thanks very much. I appreciate the comments that came before me, and especially the questions and clarifying answers from our supervisor, Chair Lawson-Remer. I really do have concerns about cost and practicality and not wasting infrastructure that we already have. I'm also a little bit uncertain as to this whole idea of a downtown central mobility hub and how it fits into all of this. Now that we have separated out the airport transit mover. I mean, I love the idea because I think it's going to come sooner. So the purpose of the mobility hubs, my understanding was from our discussions in the 2021 RTP, is that it's the area where, one of the areas in our cities where dense housing can be sited. And it's also an area with options for transportation. So it seems as if at this airport mover, won't there, what is the difference? I'll just put it that way. Secondly, regarding that, we had discussions years ago about a property in downtown San Diego where Sande was considering moving their headquarters, and there was going to be a way station for the buses. There's also county-owned and city-owned property down there. And how does that all fit in? And is there any conflicts with board members for all of that? So I'm quite curious about those questions. And it seems as if these have now become two distinct projects, and I'd appreciate them being clearly distinguished in our conversations going forward. So if you wouldn't mind responding to my questions, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, thank you. Yes, the greater airport, the greater central mobility hub concept, coming out of the airport subcommittee was to look at integrating all existing and future, mobility options with a direct transit connection to the airport. That is still the goal. What we're doing here is we're saying, that's a really big thing to try to do in one go. Let's separate these two concepts out into two interrelated and supportive projects, both with separate independent utility, but that would, be symbiotic to each other. This is the airport transit connection. We're trying to really get people from, to the airport in a quick and efficient way. That mobility hub is the next piece though. And that's where you're making an investment in bringing everything together, including that airport transit connection, and then using that as a nexus and a focal point to really, nurse supportive development and revitalization in and around the downtown city core.
And the idea that we had before about the Sande headquarters and the busway station, how does that fit into all of this?
There's another project out there, the downtown Bus Stopover, where, we have been studying and acquiring property to provide a way station for MTS bus routes, and especially for the drivers who drive on those routes, to be able to pull their buses over and do light maintenance. Sandag is still pursuing that project and that objective. If, down the road, and there's a lot of planning to be done still and a lot to be known about what a downtown central mobility hub would look like and how it would operate, that property's in the same location, there's the potential in the future to consider integrating those, important purposes.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, that means that the purpose of the Central Hub Mobility Hub, besides supportive development, is a place for people who live downtown or happen to be downtown at the convention center to also access the airport mover from going from the south up to the north to that, so that these two are an integrated project, or indeed should they be separated out?
Well, I certainly think that's true. I think, people who are downtown, whether they be conventioneers or, people, doing business downtown, they certainly will probably want to do that. But we see the Central Mobility Hub as a lot more than that. We see it as really tying together all of our regional transportation in a central location and allowing people from north, east, South County to get into that mobility hub, change modes, and get to where they need to go, whether that's the airport or something else. It might be somebody coming from the south or east, getting to the Central Mobility Hub to access a train to LA. I mean,
to be very clear, they are two separate projects. One can live without the other.
Okay.
And the reason why you plan to understand how they both kind of relate to each other, just like you understand how the background conditions and growth and the transit network is that you size these things correctly. You look at the future and you understand, what the ridership would be on day one, and then what could the ridership be in the future? So you're thinking about the sizing of these facilities today, and you plan with a comprehensive look and looking at it holistically, but they're separate projects.
Okay, I would appreciate them being handled somewhat more separately because they seem to have different purposes entirely, if I'm understanding this correctly. Yes, there's a correlation connection kind of between the two, but it seems like if we can do one separately, it seems like the airport transit mover is a priority for our region, is to get people out of their cars and to the airport without having to drive and park there. So that's how I would prefer to see this moving forward. And again, I'm just confused about how all of these real estate projects that we're hearing about in the news are connecting to all of this together. And so finally, I'd like to just say that I think that Mayor Bailey's idea of just allowing the board to have a little bit more buy-in in terms of just bring us everything, please, so that we can be the ones to discard, to understand better, to feel, so that we are part of this. That's why we're here. So thank you very much.
So, Mayor Hipner, if I may just elaborate a little bit. I do not believe a people mover from anywhere will work without a central mobility hub to bring everyone from every part of the county. So they might be thought of two separate, but they're really, I would not justify the cost of a people mover unless you have in mind how you connect with the transit, competitive transit mode with a central mobility hub. So let us just be clear. So the fact, you could definitely build a people mover, but at the end of the day, if you can't bring people from the south with the transit mode, you're not going to gain those people, even though you might get some ridership. So I want to make clear, they're two separate projects, but one would definitely enhance the other would be questionable at best. So just to be clear on the second.
Well, wait, excuse me, Hassan. So now you're confusing me a little bit more, because it seems to me that the airport mover, things are supposed to be coming to that. All the rail lines are supposed to be coming to that. So why would we need to have a central mobility hub to have the rail lines be there and then?
Great. So if you're living in the south of the county and you want to get to the airport, what you're going to have to take transit to Old Town and then that takes like 2 hours. And that comes, the transit is not frequent enough. The idea is we're proposing lines from the south, like the purple line, to come to a central location where you could make one transfer and get to the airport. So the idea is to enhance transit services from every part of the region, not just to say we connect to the airport. Yes, they are two separate projects, but one would not be as effective without the other. So I believe this region needs a central mobility hub. Right now we have Santa Fe, it's limited in capacity for any future increases in service. So we're proposing that. Now, there's a lot of work to be done. The last thing I would say in your comment, the stopover, you mentioned that we're finalizing the purchase. That was part of the location where we're looking at potential mobility hub, if that's the alternative that goes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call Mayor Jones, and I apologize if I'm calling out of order. I didn't catch the exact order, but I'll just go next to Mayor Jones.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair Blakespear. This is a lot of information that is honestly being discussed right now. And in the report, there's not as much information, which is very hard to follow. So I'm telling you in advance, I've got a lot of information all over my desk, all on notes. One of the things that I am extremely concerned about is how much money we're spending. First of all, we've already spent, like $20.6 million. And it's difficult to figure out what exactly has been spent on administration in itself. It seems like it's right around $9 million. These are taxpayer dollars. These are not, I feel like, we discussed that we had actually gone off on this other, we were talking about Navwar all this time. And then all of a sudden it says that Sande and the Navy have agreed to cease exploration of the Navy's Old Town campus as a site for the Central Mobility Hub. But I don't recall ever voting on that, and I'm not quite sure why that actually is. Then we also have, we talk about stakeholder engagement. On this, it doesn't even talk about, anyone from North County as far as NCTD has been involved in this. And then also we haven't, as a board, actually provided any direction, which I know a lot of board members have talked about that. Mayor Salas, Mayor Hebner, Mayor Bailey. I think that's vital for this to actually be something where we all have input. And I'm really concerned that there's discussion in the media that this has been fast tracked. When you talk about fast tracking, and then also that our new central mobility hub will include places like the San Diego Civic Center facility, including City Hall, the San Diego Civic Theater, a neighboring building on C Street, and then also 101 Ash. I could see why San Diego would want all of San Diego County to pay for that, but I don't think that seems like a very good location based on all of that we've even discussed here today. And and then it goes on, in the news that this is not just a City Hall project. It's going to be a central mobility hub covering a large swath of downtown. Well, we actually haven't voted on that. And, when I asked earlier about us having provided that agreement, we don't have an agreement, which I understand that. However, it's being portrayed as there is an agreement and that things are actually happening. And, I look at all of the money that is generated from TDA funds, from the federal government, all of these different funds that are coming in for specific transportation, and then also our Transnet monies. And all of this, we need to be very careful with this money. And I don't feel like North County is receiving the same amount of monies. If you look at, kind of where we're spending the money, I think it would be very, very important that we have a full accounting to show where North County is getting our fair share, because it doesn't seem like that. And then also, I want to bring up, I'd love to see on this $20.6 million what the exact breakdown is for each site that we have been looking at, and how those dollars have been spent, whether they've been on specifically administration, or if they've been spent on environmental, what that actually means. Because when I look at the, there was something in here about environmental. Oh, Navy environmental and requirements definition support, $3.5 million. I'm sorry, I have no idea what that actually means. And then 16.8 total for environmental concept development and project administration. It's really tough to figure out how that actually has been spent. So when we bring things to the board of directors, I think it's really important for us to have a total breakdown of where those dollars have been. I would like to see personally for each location, and how much we have spent on something that we now know that Sande staff has told us, oh, well, we're not looking at that site anymore. If it's been eliminated, how much money did we spend? Because this is throwaway money. I remember when I first got on the city council in San Marcos, one of the discussions that we had was on the Nordall Bridge, the rebuilding of that bridge, because it was low and it got hit all the time. And, every time it got hit, it was like $1 million. It would get wasted to fix the bridge, just to fortify it, to make sure that it was going to be safe for people to drive on and drive under. And, the city manager at the time had said, yeah, this is going to go on for a while. And I said, you know what, we've got to figure out how to actually work with Caltrans to get that fixed, because throwaway dollars are not what we should be doing with taxpayer money ever. We need to be very judicious with them. And I feel like there is just too much money being spent on all of these, I don't really want to use this term, but kind of shiny objects of now we're going to do this, now we're going to do that. I think the board needs to know exactly what locations we're looking at, a cost benefit analysis, how much this is going to cost us at the end for each location that we're considering. And who is going to make these decisions? It needs to be the entire board. It can't just be one board member negotiating with Sande staff. it needs to be a full discussion, and it needs to be done in a financially sound way that is the least expensive without going off on all of these tangents. I just feel like we're going way too many directions, and I really want to be careful with taxpayer dollars. So those are my considerations. I just hope that we really can come to some agreement that we're not having all of our eggs in one basket and then changing direction and spending so much money on that exact decision. I really hope we're going to be more judicious moving forward financially, because this is not something I think we should be doing. And one last comment that I would like to make is, yes, $40 million, our director said, was allocated previously, but we didn't actually get any more information to help guide that discussion of what we're looking at and the different locations we're looking at. And I really want to see that moving forward in the most economical way possible. So those are my comments. Thank you so much, Chair, for your time. And I'm sorry I spent so much time literally trying to make it through my notes.
Thank you.
And a lot of discussion was really brought forward some of my thoughts this morning.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Just on giving speeches about throwaway money, I think we need to be careful. There is no money being thrown away. Every penny can be justified. Changing location, that is the planning process. You started the environmental process, you hear comments, and you adjust accordingly. I would appreciate, sure, you want more information, more presentation, we'll provide it, but let us stay away from judgment about throwing away money. I think every penny is justified here. Any project of this size, this will be very cost effective. When you spend $100 million on a $4 billion project at LAX, for this kind of work, we're way under that justifiable given by the board direction to do the work. So right now, to give speeches about throwaway money, we care about taxpayer money as much as anybody. So I would appreciate just sticking to the facts. You want more information, we'll get it to you. But to make a statement like throwing away money, that's really not fair.
Thank you, Director Akrada. You could actually turn that around and provide all of the information so that we can see that all of these dollars have been justified. And I appreciate your comments, I really do. But truly, if we do want to have an accountability, which I think is extremely important, providing that information to the board members is a very important part of that step.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Gasterlin.
Great, thank you so much. First, I want to echo Mayor Salas. I'll just say, me too. I want to echo Mayor Bailey, me too. I want to echo Mayor Jones, me too. And I especially want to say thank you to Mayor Huebner. So now I can be focused in my comments. I'm not going to repeat anything of what you said. We have an enormous volume of cars that are going to be going to this airport if we don't do something here. We have to do something. So what is it that the problem is? Let's do a problem definition. We are trying to solve the last mile. So what does that really mean? Let's look right now at what Google Maps tells us it takes to get to the airport. From Del Mar, it is 20 miles and it's 28 minutes by car. If I go from Del Mar to Old Town, it's 16 miles and 20 minutes by car, an 8-minute difference. If I go from Del Mar to Middletown, it's 18 miles and 20 minutes. So if we define this as a streamlining of getting to the airport, that's the problem we're solving here. That's what we're focused on as decision makers here. And Hassan, our executive director, with all due respect, I really do think we need to take the downtown central mobility hub out of this slide, because that's a separate problem. It's context, but the problem we're solving here is how to get people efficiently to the Middletown stop. And that's from Middletown to the airport, Santa Fe Depot to Middletown to the airport. And that is going to address the elephant that this airport is. So what's this elephant? The tail, the legs, the trunk. We're coming from North County. We're coming from Chula Vista. We're coming from downtown. But this middle town solution, which has emerged out of the CEQA studies and the preliminary environmental studies, makes a lot of sense. So I'm not going to chide anybody on how we got here. I could. My fellow board members have already done this. But I would say we can really do something sensible and good for San Diego. But let's do a reboot. Let's do it well. And let's unify around doing this properly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shu.
Thank you. I want to make my comments real brief, since I know we have other items on the agenda. First, I'm in support of the staff recommendation for this item. So we hope we'll get to that time that we can actually move ahead on 8B. That said, let me start with my opening comments. I like people movers. I think we have to have more of them, not only for the airport, but throughout downtown. So I hope we do move ahead on that. And I'm very happy that the Sande is moving ahead with these studies to look at how people mover can work. I've always known that that's what's necessary at the airport to move people out. But I have some other overlying concerns that I think we should keep in mind. When we get serious about climate change, when we really get serious about climate change, we may have to curtail or stop flying. So that's something we better keep in mind at some point. That said, who flies now? We're dealing with a very small population of people that flies, and how often do they fly? The employees of the airport do need help getting to work and back, and I think we need to help them. But we're talking about a very limited number of people who have lots of money that we're trying to serve with this airport. Now, I know the surveys throughout the county have shown that everyone wants to solve this problem, but I think it's a very romantic problem. That said, I still think we need to move ahead and fix this issue, but I'm not sure whether or not there's sincerity within the Port Commission and Airport Authority to really solve this problem. Because they put more money into a parking lot at the airport than solving this particular problem with connecting with transit. And that's why we've had this problem for so long. I have a challenge for the Port Commission and for the Airport Authority and MTS, which I serve on the board of, and Sande. We have something akin to a people mover now, which is the bus that goes to the rental place, the car rental place. It's easy for people to get on and off. It goes to the airport. It goes to the car rental facility now. Why can't we work out all the bureaucratic barriers and have that bus now become much more frequent and go to the Midtown, the Middletown trolley station or to the Santa Fe Depot? We could do that within a year if we worked on it. And let's do some other priorities. Let that bus go to the curb and have a special lane rather than giving car drivers priority at the airport. Let's get that bus people to these other locations and make it work now so we could demonstrate that the trolley system can move people, so that the Mid-Coast trolley can bring passengers down from North County. And to take employees that take the trolley to the airport can also get to the airport much faster. We can make that happen now with headways of 5 to 4 minutes. That's something that we can do now if we really sincerely wanted to solve this problem today rather than in the near future. In the near future, we do need to solve this problem. So I think these studies need to go forward and the funding proposals need to go forward. But with very little money, and if we were really sincere about solving this issue, we'd do it today. And I'm really sorry to say that we don't have the leadership or have not had the leadership in the past to move that forward. I've been at Sande attending meetings for over 10 years, and I've heard this conversation over and over. And I think now we finally have some good studies going forward, but I hope we do go forward in a sincere way. Thank you very much. And if there's a motion that needs to be made, I would like to make that motion to approve. I think it's 8B.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that motion. And let me go on with the rest of the board members. So Councilmember Edson. Oh, we can't hear you.
Chair, I'm happy to second.
I think
Okay, thank you.
I unmuted there. Thank you. Sorry. Speaking with my North County elected hat on, I support Supervisor Lawson-Remer's questions and the questions of others, and look forward to staff providing a detailed analysis of the best possible people mover or airport direct connection location for residents coming from locations both north and northeast of the airport. When I switch hats, as we heard this morning, to my NCTD hat, it should be like one of those little conductor things, but I don't have one. As we heard this morning, under the new proposal, a people mover would be used to connect existing transit services to the airport and could potentially loop from the Middletown MTS trolley station and the Santa Fe Depot station to the airport. NCTD recommends that Sandag continue to pursue a transit connection to the airport as a top priority, independent of the central mobility hub, and strongly supports connecting the people mover to the existing Santa Fe Depot station as a start, where critical transit infrastructure and transit services, MTS, Amtrak Coaster, and first and last mile connections already exist. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Hall.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I too echo all the previous speakers, and I think they had said it much more eloquently than what I would. What was said earlier, though, that I would like us to spend equal amount of time, equal amount of study on is flexible fleets. It was brought up earlier. Whatever mode of transportation we're studying, I would like to know what it costs per person, per mile, to move that person from point A to point B in the time in which it takes. Today, flexible fleets is by far the cheapest per mile to get someone from point A to their final destination today. And that's not without autonomous vehicles coming in the future. So when we think about spending billions of dollars on whatever thing we're going to do, I also want us to study that, because I think that is the wave of the future, and it's very seldom ever discussed. Also, I think part of the frustration that we've heard today was there isn't a clear business plan. There obviously people are going to be winners and losers in this, and it was highlighted through Richard Bailey and others. And whoever is getting the most benefit should be paying the greatest share of these costs. The greatest share of these costs. So as someone said in North County, obviously they are not getting the same economic benefit that's going to be provided off of some of this as people are in a closer area. So we also need to look at that as we go forward and have detail as to where these riders are going and what their projected benefit may or may not be. With that, I share the same frustration that my others have. When I have to get my information out of the paper, I can't tell you the frustration that causes me. So thank you for the moment.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wearing my MTS hat, I just want to preface my comments and questions with we remain a willing and committed partner. I also want to echo Councilmember Edson's comments that we want to maximize our existing transit infrastructure. I have a couple questions regarding funding. Is the expectation that we will receive funding together as, important stakeholders in this project? And also, where would operating monies come from?
So I think, as I said earlier, the board authorized the money for the planning and the environmental, which probably will not be enough, but we'll see. The construction money, the airport committed already 500 million total, 350 of which could be used for this. We definitely gonna, whatever alternatives we end up with, apply for the federal funding and state funding. But at the end of the day, local funding has to be put on the table for this airport connection. That's yet to be determined. We're not there yet. And again, I think San Diegans probably would agree with most of you that connecting to the airport is important. So I'm hopeful San Diegans will eventually be willing to pay for it. If they don't, this will not move forward.
Okay, thank you, Director Hazan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Gloria.
Thank you, Chair. I want to express my appreciation to my colleagues for a robust conversation this morning. This is a big project and it deserves a full conversation. As the staff pointed out, this has been an item on agendas of this board since 2019. And this is the latest iteration of that as we've taken in more information from our Navy partners and others to start moving forward. I look forward to more opportunities to discuss this at length. But what I'm heartened by most in this conversation is it seemingly is unanimous support for having a better transit connection to our airport. Now, how we do that, in what way, in what sequence, that has to be determined. And all of us are very, you all are probably thrifty with money. I'm miserly with taxpayer money to make sure that whatever we do is able to be effective and efficient. And so today's action and Councilmember Shu's motion will allow us to collect the data and allow the staff to do the work to actually bring us back more information. We can have more conversations. That's up to the chair, but I'm certainly game to have those. And I look forward to the opportunity. I want to say from where I sit, the urgent need is to connect a rail connection to our airport, to our terminals like other big cities have. I think it's frankly embarrassing to our region that we have a high quality rail in the MTS trolley that actually does go past our airport but doesn't connect to it. I think it's an expression of our failure to plan and our failure to do things correct the first time. And I'm of the belief that this board can fix that. I'm also of the strong belief that the public wants us to do that. And so I appreciate the nature of the conversation today where I heard no one say no. I think everyone wants to know more. I will encourage you to be careful what you wish for because it will require you to read more board documents and come prepared to meetings, perhaps ask questions in advance of a board meeting so that you can have an informed opinion. I want to state for the record very clearly, because a board member did raise this action has nothing to do with 101 Ash. The city is in active litigation about that. It is not clear when that could be resolved. And so that really can't be a part of this conversation. But I have been open about my desire to have a redevelopment of our civic center. To the extent that we can leverage that opportunity to benefit the region, I'm happy to be a good regional partner and work with Sande to make sure that all of your jurisdictions can benefit if there's a reason to have a central mobility hub here. But again, I want to express that that's secondary to the need to connect the airport to our rail system. And I want to say to Sande staff, or make an ask of Sande staff to continue to engage actively with MTS and NCTD. This board knows well that we're the developers of these kinds of projects and that our partners are the ones that often operate them. And I recognize that we are not where we probably want to be with regard to MTS. I've had conversations with Chairman Fletcher, and I know they have a lot of questions and requests for more information and refinement. Again, fine by me. Let's have all of that information put on the table. But Chair, I appreciate the robust conversation. I acknowledge we have additional items on today's agenda. And I want to just, for the record, reflect that there is unanimous consent from this board to want to move forward with a connection that better connects the airport. This may be in my city, but it impacts and serves all of your cities. So this is a regional effort. We all have to pay for it, and we'll have to figure out a way to do it. But let's not be a past generation of San Diegans that's willing to build an airport and a rail system and not connect them. Let's be a new generation of San Diegans that acts like a big region, a big city, connects these things, and actually makes life easier for the people that we serve. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to make 3 comments before we go ahead and vote. So the first one is, I just want to acknowledge the board members who have articulated, and those who haven't, but who felt it too, that this was really not handled properly, this airport transit discussion being first a press release and then also newspaper articles that made it seem like a fait accompli. And I, as the chair, feel that I did not handle that right, and I apologize for that. I should have pulled that back and exerted control over that press release, and I didn't do that. And so I just want to recognize that I would also be upset reading those news articles without knowing what was happening and the direction changing. And I also believe that when we allocate $40 million in 2019, that doesn't mean that we want it to come back to us fully cooked. we want to be involved in the process as board members. We have an oversight responsibility, and also we represent constituents all over this county. So it is important that we know what the project is, that we feel it solves the problem that we've defined, that we have buy-in. And also we know that projects ultimately fail when they don't have the buy-in of leadership. And so it's not going to work as a project if we don't proceed differently. So it's my intention to have this conversation, be more open and transparent, be more frequent, really air things at the board level more. And I just really want to acknowledge that to you all. And then the next thing is I represent the North County mayors on the Airport Authority Board, and they have some really great data that they provide, which is already created, which we just need to present to this board about who is coming to and from the airport. So I think we're all having this general idea of what problem are we solving for, but the issue of how many of the people who come to and from the airport work there as an employment center where people are going multiple times a day to and from the airport. Where is the traffic congestion coming from? How much of it is from the north and from the south? How much of it is convention and business travel? Because that is a lot of what is flying into our airport and then going straight downtown. And that would also help us to answer the question of where do we want and need transit to go? Because as someone who comes from North County, I recognize my own trip, but I also can look at the data that's been provided when we did the regional plan to say, oh, here are the regional centers where employment is located, and it makes sense from a regional perspective that we put transit in these areas. So I think that would really help this board, and I hope that we can provide that in the future. And I'll also just say, I mean, back to the questions that were asked by Supervisor Lawson-Remer, which I think were really important. That the Middletown station, at least without seeing more data that would show that North County ridership is not that important, my feeling is North County ridership is important. And if the Middletown stop doesn't connect to transit, like NCTD transit, like it actually heads north, I think that's a major problem. So, I appreciate all the problems that Middletown solves for, but we need to really address that question of what happens from Middletown. Where is it that it can't just basically connect to the parking garage? So it can't just serve the rental car center and then head south and not head north or connect in a way that's reasonable. So I don't feel like that really was answered in the questions. And so I would like to have more information about that. And I am someone who now takes transit from my train station in my city to Old Town, and then takes the Flyer, which is working out. It's a bus that goes a lot of it on airport property. And that is actually much more efficient than going all the way to Old Town. So, or not Old Town, Santa Fe Depot. So I think it's important to think about what people are currently doing to get to the airport. I know our executive director thinks that a central mobility hub is critical, but people are already going to the airport from all over this county on transit and also driving. So, Mayor there were some other comments about, are we just going to take Uber and go to Middletown? And I think that if we're thinking of that as a solution, that's really not reasonable. People will take their Uber directly to the airport. They won't go take it to Middletown. There'd be no reason to do that unless the traffic gets so astronomical that people can't handle doing that. So anyway, I just want to make sure that we continue to consider all of these questions. Board members have really important involvement from around the region. And so I do plan to and ask staff to agendize this for a follow-up conversation, because this was really almost a board workshop on this topic, which is what we need to be doing periodically. So with that, let's go ahead, and there's a motion and a second on the table. So let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you. For the city of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Given what our chair just said and the lack of information given today, I cannot support spending any more money at this time, so I will be voting no.
For the city of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
I was unclear with the comments that Chair Blakespeare made, that it was a discussion that needed more vetting out through a workshop. Was that the discussion? Because if that doesn't match the motion, right?
If I may, Chair.
Yeah.
Explain here. So on the agenda, there's two items. There's A and B. And item A is the workshop discussion that we just had on this airport connectivity. Item B is a proposed budget amendment. And the budget amendment is to accept funds that came out of a lawsuit. So this is different. This is separate. That came out of a lawsuit with the Port of San Diego and the car rental facility on the airport. And these funds, the court ordered, could only be spent addressing transportation issues in and around the car rental facility and the Port of San Diego.
Okay, so the
Court
motion
identified then, so I don't know, the motion that was made, I'm not sure was related to this budget amendment to accept these funds. So I just want to clarify that for the board chair. We
I
completed.
think it
item
was,
A.
I mean, Jack could clarify that, but I think he was moving staff recommendation for this item.
Okay, and that is this one that we accept the funding for it.
Right, and I'll just,
Yeah,
sorry.
so my vote is yes.
Okay, but let me just, so I'll just want to clarify that. I'm saying that I think we should have more conversations about this, but I'm not saying that I don't think we should support this budget as was just described. This is related specifically to a lawsuit and it's really quite narrow.
Correct. Just to clarify, I was trying to move our agenda along if we can. And that's why I made the motion for AP to help us get to item 9.
That was my second as well.
Can I go ahead and continue, Chair?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. For the city of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
I guess, Chair, respectfully, perhaps it would be helpful to understand what alternatives this money could be spent on. For example, I heard some comments from board members stating that we should be having a conversation about the Central Mobility Hub and transit connection to the airport separately from one another. I'm in favor of accepting this money, but I don't necessarily know it would make more sense for us to use it to study the Central Mobility Hub versus study a transit connection to the airport.
Yes, if I may, Chair, this item 8B is an action to accept money that came from a legal settlement, as Colleen described earlier. It was a lawsuit between the car rental companies and the Port of San Diego. The parties have agreed, the parties to the litigation, which Sandag is not in any way related to the litigation, agreed that the residual funds from that litigation should go to Sandag to fund a project that would improve ingress and egress from the consolidated car rental facility. The parties agreed that Sandag would be the appropriate recipient and that this project would further the aims of the settlement understanding. The court approved that settlement agreement, and so the choice before the board is whether the board wants to accept these funds, place them in the project for which we can then use to develop a solution to improve transit connection to the airport, which would benefit the ingress and egress from the car rental facility.
Thank you for that clarification, though. I believe the motion is worded in such a way that it would have to be a part of the Central Mobility Hub, which I think during our conversations just now, we heard Sandag staff say we're going to treat these two projects as separate but related. So I'm wondering, Chair, would it be possible to simply accept the funds without necessarily tying it to the Central Mobility Hub at this time?
If I may, Chair, the project Central Mobility Hub encompasses both the transit connection and the Central Mobility Hub as one common program. The court has agreed that Sandag could accept the funds to further the improvement of ingress and egress from the car rental facility. So these funds we intend to use within the greater Central Mobility Hub project to study that connection between the car rental facility and the airport.
Okay, so I think it's pretty clear that this is the way it needs to be, and that's court approved. And so the question is whether we're going to accept that, and it is related specifically to the car rental facility, and not to the Central Mobility Hub, even though the Central Mobility Hub is the umbrella project name. So I think we should probably, do you think we should start over with the vote and go through so that everybody knows what we were voting on?
Yes.
Okay.
We're just going to reset the voting slide.
Okay.
Question?
Before we start voting, I have my hand up and I think Mayor Hall has a question. I just heard that.
What, Mayor Gasterlin, what is your hand up for?
So I'm strongly concerned about the Central Mobility Hub as the umbrella on the motion for these funds. These funds are very specific. It was a lawsuit, and the ingress egress to the rental facility is a tight, well encapsulated goal. And this motion makes it sound, perhaps unintentionally, broader than that. And I would like to see us reword this motion by taking out the Central Mobility Hub or adding to it the people mover project, moving people in and out of the rental center, something along those lines. I'm not going to wordsmith here, but I think it's incumbent upon us. It's our responsibility. Now that I've heard this post first two votes discussion.
Okay, let's see what Ryan says to that. Yeah, let's see what the staff says.
And I'm willing to make a substitute motion or ask for an amendment to Jack Shu's motion.
Yeah, I'm not going to accept a amendment. The reason being, I think in the planning process and the contracts and also to study egress and or access to the rental facility involves a greater study. You don't get data just on one side alone, or ask a contractor to, for example, ask a contractor to spend money just on that one site. It has to be in totality, and that's why the description is the way it is. So I think to move things along, I think the description is fine, and that we should move along with this thing, because otherwise we'll nitpick it to death.
Okay.
It is a title for part of where the funding will be going to.
So the motion maker doesn't want to amend his motion, so it stands as is. To me, it seems like whatever the title is not going to change what happens here. So I don't see it personally as necessary to change the title, but I think we all understand it better. So the motion maker and the seconder, I think, are still in favor of what it says. So let's go ahead and vote on what's on the table.
For the city of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
No.
For the city of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
For the city of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
No.
For the county of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
For the city of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
No.
For the city of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
No.
For the city of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
For the city of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Dedina, yes. Imperial Beach, yes.
For the city of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
For the city of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
For the city of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For the city of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, no.
For the city of Poway, Mayor Voss.
No, without more clarity.
For the city of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
For the city of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, no, too vague.
The city of Santee is absent. For the city of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Yes.
And for the city of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, no.
And I neglected to state that the city of Escondido is absent. And that item does pass with 9 yeses and 9 noes.
Okay,
8 noes, apologies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been brought to my attention that we did not vote on consent yet. So we need to do items 3 through 7.
So move. Second.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and vote on that.
Oh, excuse me. I just want to clarify something.
Okay. Yes, Mayor. Mayor Salas, I can't hear you.
I'm saying that I wanted to clarify that on the minutes that I was present during that meeting, and I voted yes on the consent and yes on item number 7.
Okay, let's make sure we make that change to item number 3.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Yes.
For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
For the City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Del Mar, yes.
For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
The City of Escondido is absent. For the City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Imperial Beach, yes.
For the City of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
Let me say yes.
For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
For the City of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, no.
For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Yes.
For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
The City of Santee is absent. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Ebner, yes.
And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And that item does pass with 16 yeses, 1 no, and 2 absences.
Okay, thank you. So we have one item left, and this is number 9, Regional Equitable Housing Subcommittee, which Supervisor Lawson Reamer is going to explain to us.
Thank you so much. So we do have a slide deck that Sande staff has put together. So just want to present an update of the work we've been doing in the Regional Equitable Housing Subcommittee and the work plan. So just, I think as a reminder, the subcommittee was formed by this board in December 2021 to convene discussions and explore ideas on how to strengthen our regional approach to housing. And I really want to thank Vice Chair Gloria for his leadership and support on the subcommittee, as well as the other subcommittee members, including Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis and Jack Shu, as well as Lisa Hebner. It's just been a very productive set of conversations and just really a lot of interesting ideas and has felt really fruitful and collaborative, which is great. And I would love to do more of that kind of work and as part of our work on SANDAG. So the subcommittee approved a work plan that includes a review of the SANDAG regional housing framework. I think some of this is listed in bullets in the next slide. So why don't we go ahead and move forward to the next slide? Great. So we are reviewing the SANDAG Regional Housing Framework, which is a report recognizing the intersection between our regional housing, transportation, and sustainability goals, and identifying broad strategies to advance equitable housing in our region. We're discussing our housing acceleration program. We're discussing and exploring regional housing finance models. And that last task has really been the focus of our work over the past few months because of some legislation that's been moving in Sacramento. So I want to provide some details on the work on this particular work to date, and also invite any interested board members to contact me. We can talk further, to do a deeper dive, or join in to listen on the subcommittee's efforts the next meeting as this work continues to unfold. So I do think let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so I think it's helpful just to share a little bit about who we've been collaborating with, because the subcommittee, even though there's only 6 of us, we're not working alone. but we have convened a housing task force made up of diverse stakeholders, like very, very diverse stakeholders actually impacted by our regional housing challenges. Everyone from ARP, we've got the San Diego Foundation, there's the housing commissions, climate action folks, there's building trades on here, there's builders on here and developers, Habitat for Humanity. So over 40 different organizations have been part of this consultative process, which has really been really interesting and bringing broad perspectives around the shared challenges in our region. And so this task force has met several times over the past few months to discuss and provide input on the subcommittee. So guided by that input from the task force, the subcommittee has sort of been trying to figure out how to take that broader community input and then use it to inform our thinking on some of this housing finance, these housing finance conversations that have been moving in Sacramento around how we might want to put together a housing finance authority for our region. So let's look at slide 4. So as I mentioned, our subcommittee over the initially just given kind of timing of legislation introduced by Senator Wesso, and then us on the Assembly side, supported by Assembly Member Chris Ward. Our subcommittee is focusing our work looking at regional housing finance models. So I think this might not be a familiar kind of framework for folks on this board. So I think it's useful to just pause and just take a couple minutes to talk about what is a regional housing finance agency and why we need one, frankly, like very badly need one. And first of all, it's, I think we all recognize our regional housing crisis requires regional solutions, and all of our local jurisdictions have been doing all we can to solve our housing affordability crisis. We're not able to solve this alone, working in isolation. So we really need regional coordination as well as funding resources that can augment and support local housing initiatives. And so we need to be able to empower and support the work that's already being done locally, and then accelerate that work, provide additional resources, and scale up solutions. And this is also about regional competition, frankly, because if we don't get our house in order down here, and get a regional housing finance authority up and running, where we can generate some regional solutions, a local pipeline, find some financing for local to provide local funding, we are completely uncompetitive with funding from Sacramento, because the Bay Area already created the first regional housing finance agency in 2019, which includes 88 cities in the Bay Area. And because of this, they've already received $20 million in a direct state allocation last year, requesting another $20 million this year. And because they're empowered to raise local revenues, of course, subject to voter approval, that can be deployed to support their affordable housing projects, this makes the Bay Area and those projects even more competitive in securing state funds. So we're already lagging behind when it comes to competing for scarce states housing dollars, because we don't have any kind of regional housing finance authority to make our region more competitive. So we are at risk of falling further behind. And that's why, we're kind of in a race to get in the queue. Can we move to slide 5? So other regions across California are already taking notice of what's been going on in the Bay Area and don't want to miss out. So there's already 4 bills currently working through Sacramento to create regional housing finance approaches similar to the one that we've been talking about for Southern California and for San Diego. So I think the trend is extremely clear. Regions that are self-organizing to raise regional housing resources are going to increasingly compete and win for state housing funds. And regions that do not get organized to raise local resources are going to fall farther and farther behind in being able to access state funding to meet our local housing needs. So I think that is, and you can see what these bills are. There's an LA bill, a San Diego bill, there's Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, and San Gabriel Valley. So moving ahead to slide 6. Just want to give a little overview on SB 1105. And that is the bill sponsored by Senator Wesso, and as I mentioned as well, being carried in the Assembly side by Assemblymember Ward, that would create a San Diego Regional Housing Finance Agency. And this agency would be closely aligned with SANDAG's transit efforts, so that our transit efforts and our housing efforts are hand in glove and are synergistic instead of completely disparate, which is really important, as we all know, because people have to get from their house to where they're going. So you want to make sure your transit and your housing makes sense together. So this agency that's being discussed right now would provide technical assistance to local jurisdictions to develop housing programs, including inclusionary housing programs or permit streamlining efforts or ADU approval efforts. It could help local jurisdictions with home key applications and accessing other state programs. It could also raise new revenues subject to voter approval, and whether that was something the voters wanted to do or not, that could be deployed to fund affordable and missing middle housing efforts across the region. And half the funds would go directly to cities to administer and advance their housing programs, so really going to local jurisdictions, and the other half would be allocated by the board regionally to, obviously still ending up in cities, but sort of at a regional strategic level to support affordable housing projects and programs throughout our region, which I think is a nice balance between, kind of accelerating existing local efforts and then having some regional strategic priorities. The bill as written proposes that this work is grounded in key principles of affordability, sustainability, livability, equity, and quality jobs. So the agency's approach would include a whole bunch of different aspects of advancing those principles, including housing production, housing preservation, rental and tenant protections, and though, of course, housing production is what we are sorely needing, so that would be the key focus. The bill also proposes the new agency be closely aligned with SANDAG and SANDAG's priorities to specifically encourage that affordable and missing middle housing is near transit infrastructure, so that our ridership, strategic planning, and our ridership targets and our housing makes sense and are working together. The governing board be modeled just like SANDAG's policy committee structure, and include SANDAG board reps from each of the 6 regions. So it's, a structure we're all quite familiar with, and would just really build off of that policy committee structure to, have the same kind of governance, and same kind of representation to do this housing work. So just a kind of a quick update on process. SB 1105 is currently working its way through the Senate. It was approved at both the Housing Committee and the Local Government and Finance Committee. We expect it to move to a floor vote in the coming weeks. Then it's going to move to the Assembly, where the bill will continue to work through committees and refine legislation throughout the summer. Can we move to slide 7, please? Great. So we, as a housing committee, have been reviewing legislation, discussing a lot of really fantastic input from this giant task force that's been convening, and discussing what these principles are, what it should do, how this finance authority should be structured, what the priorities should be, and really how it can best support the needs of our region. The subcommittee and housing task force have met 6 times in total so far, focusing on program criteria, governance structure, and revenue options. And so as a subcommittee, we're working closely with Senator Wesso so that our conversations can continue to inform the legislation, and this legislation can continue to evolve and be guided and shaped by local input. And so far, I have to say, they've been incredibly fantastic. The kind of the input that we've received from our local task force and our subcommittee has been kind of pretty immediately reflected in the bill, which has just been really kind of an incredible process, and just been pretty seamless in that regard. So in terms of next steps, our original equitable housing subcommittee is continuing to meet over the coming months. And we are looking to make a recommendation quite soon to to the board to take a position on the legislation, because it would be, although the work is, really being guided by this housing subcommittee, we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to get input from the broader board as well. So in that regard, anyone who has kind of initial thoughts, initial feedback, takes a look at the early ledge, wants to provide additional information, wants a more in-depth briefing. I know it's already noon, so don't have, the time that this should be due on this call today. Happy to facilitate that and make that possible. So that we can make sure that we come up with a plan that really, really makes sense for our region. So I guess I think we're, time to wrap up. I know time is short. Next slide. So we, honestly just have to say that this has been a great process. I feel really grateful to the board members who've been partners in this, with everyone having just, I think, really, really good ideas on how we move this forward. I'm just so excited about this effort and the opportunity to be proactive, to kind of be ahead of the curve so that San Diego can, be at the leadership and at the cutting edge and taking proactive steps to meet our housing, climate, and transit goals and really help address this affordable housing crisis in San Diego. So with that, I just wanted to open the floor for questions.
Okay, thank you. We have Mayor Jones with her hands up.
Thank you so much, Chair Blakespear, and thank you very much, Supervisor Lawson-Remer. Really appreciate your comments. I do have a lot of thoughts about this. One is, the city of San Marcos has over 7% of our housing stock is deed restricted affordable. We've done a great job in that. I actually just approved a workforce housing project this last week, or I'm sorry, it's this week. Anyway, so we are definitely working hard to provide housing for the region and San Marcos residents. One of the things that really does concern me is that on this list here of members, there is no one from the North County Association of Realtors, and there's no one from the San Diego North EDC. It's all just San Diego Central. So I would love to see them included, because I think they need to definitely be part of the conversation when we're talking about regional participation. The other thing is I am concerned about the taxing authority. If we look at what's happening at Sande right now, and many of our needs of our cities are being stifled, they're being ignored. I would be very concerned with the voting structure in cities having zero taxation without representation. I really have a concern over that. So those are my thoughts initially, but I definitely also want to make sure that we retain all local control when it comes to housing. I think it's really important. I don't agree with things like SB 9 that have come into play. I just really have an issue with them. I think local control is the only way that we can keep our cities unique to what our citizens want. And anyway, those are my initial thoughts. Thank you so much for your presentation and helping us understand what is going on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Chair Blakespear, should I just call on folks?
Yeah, I think it's a good plan, because you can answer questions if there are ones that you, or otherwise just call on the people with their hands up.
Great. Mayor Sotelo-Solis.
Gracias. Thank you, Chair. Gracias, Chair. So I think that there's, this committee really has had really robust dialogue about just some of the ideas of, one, the connectivity, but two, just what it means when we talk about addressing the needs, the regional housing needs that each of us is responsible for, but how we want to also to address the needs of the very low, moderate, and the missing middle housing, as well as, how we get there, what incentives are there, who and how we discuss diversity and addressing those needs. So I want to say thank you to Chair Lawson-Remer for facilitating that, and for our team as well, both on the dais and behind the scenes at Sande, for really helping to foster that, creating slide decks formerly known as PowerPoint presentations, to to provide us the information that really helps us make those decisions. I know that as we talk about the policy itself, we will be discussing the governance piece, as Mayor Jones alluded to. You know, what does it mean? Is it one member, one vote? I think there's a lot of conversation there. Weighted vote, what does that look like? I think also too, one of the questions that I had at the last meeting was how we split those resources. You know, if it's a 50-50 split between entity, who is, you know, that housing authority entity, to the cities. And I know that I mentioned why not a 70-30 split? Go to the city 70, you know, and coming to the agency at 30%. There's a lot of opportunities. I think it's more about the dialogue to see what makes most sense, being as how we have several projects and resources that we can really kind of compare what type of split works. But we're the ones that have to build it. So I think, you know, leaning towards the municipality side is responsible, but we're still having the dialogue. I appreciate it. And I know that it is 12:07 chairs, plural. And I know we do want to head out, but I just want to say good job. Thank you, and adelante.
Thank you so much. Mayor Gasterland.
Thank you, Supervisor Lawson-Remer. First, wonderful job. Thank you very much. I'm fully in support of the plan that you've laid out, and thank you for taking the lead on this. I wanted to put something on the table, perhaps for this subcommittee to help think through. We have a rental subsidy program in Del Mar, and for that rental subsidy program, our source of funds for it I won't go into details, but it's drying up, and we have to rethink how we do this. What I'm realizing is several things. One, the county waiting list for vouchers under Section 8 there's 1.5 people on the list for every person who's getting it. It takes 10 years to get to the point where you can get these rental vouchers. I don't know exactly what the numbers are in the city of San Diego with the San Diego Housing Authority, but I would expect they'd be the same or even more eye-opening. What I've learned as we've gone through this subsidy program, now I have the benefit in Del Mar of living in this tiny city where the people on the rental subsidy program have reached out, and I've met with each one of them. And what I've come to understand is how utterly important to these folks it is for them to have this. And what I'm seeing as I learn more about the rental subsidies is, in some ways, this may be a safety net that's utterly important. And if we're, for example, spending 40 million on rent subsidies, maybe per year, maybe we need to be looking right now at spending 100 million, getting those other 1.5 per one who gets a voucher covered, and to be thinking about that population channeling into these affordable units that we're talking about building. Yeah, and what this does, if we think about the rental subsidies as part of this equation, is it brings it from being the hypothetical numbers that we've been assigned as units we need to build in the region to real numbers for what do we need to do to help the people on the waiting lists now. So I guess my question is, are rental subsidies, or at least the current program and understanding the waiting lists, on the table for your subcommittee?
Such a good question. We haven't had a deep dive on that. I would say they're not off the table. So I think part of what we're trying to do with with this agency is create some flexibility for, you know, a lot of flexibility. It's all incentive based. It's all voluntary, you know, really driven by different conditions in different cities. And, you know, I think the idea would be that, you know, you'd be able to design different kinds of programs that meet the needs, that there'd be sort of hopefully some additional resources available. And then the kind of programs that would be designed would be different in different cities based on different needs. So I think that's definitely not off the table. It's more like part of the basket of what could be considered. But I think it's a really interesting, and I'd love to have a longer conversation with you and also the person who's actually smarter than me about this issue, Jeff Ewan. So maybe the three of us could talk. So Jeff's my staff lead who knows what's actually going on around here.
That'd be great. Let's do it.
Okay, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Mayor Huebner.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Supervisor, for initiating this whole project. I think it's super important to be sort of a self-help county as what you're creating for us. I just want to emphasize to the board the purpose, the words that are on one of your slides, that is voluntary, innovative, and incentive-based housing approaches. I think what the subcommittee has been working on, we've had really good discussions, and rest assured that I am representing the North County unique interests very strongly in these discussions. Many of us have we have high land costs, and we've lost projects because of the cost per unit. There's ways that we've got to look at this differently in our unique region, and I appreciate the approach that this is taking to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
I just want to make one comment. So I think this is a good example of Sande bringing this issue forward for a board discussion before it's already cooked, to get everybody's thoughts and feelings and to have you present to us about what it is that we're doing. And, I think the hope is that you'll come back to us and it'll be part of our legislative program that we would, as a board, supporting this bill, basically. So, but this is, that first step of saying, okay, let's really understand this. And so I thank you for diving into it here.
Definitely, we'll have to come back and ask for support for the legislative program. And I just also want to make sure this is on everyone's radar. So if you want to have additional conversations offline, contact me and we can continue talking. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. We appreciate your energy. It's great. I'm glad that you're taking a leadership role on this topic. Okay, so let's see. The next thing is member comments. So non-agenda member comments. That was an information item, so no vote. We're on to the very last thing. Does anybody want to put their hand up and say anything they didn't get to say? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So our next thing that we'll do at Sande is a board workshop on the 26th. That's that Thursday in Balboa Park. And then the day after that, we have our board meeting on May 27th at 9 a.m. So this meeting is officially adjourned. Have a great weekend.